We're live.
We are live. Excellent. Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Left Right Cab, a debate show that isn't really a debate show. More like a show that has friendly conversations about politics, philosophy, current events, history, and pop culture. Travis taking a more left stance to the discussion, myself taking more of a right stance, and Jake running our audio and video telling us why we are both wrong. And all of that makes us parched. So the cab part of the name comes into play. We quench our thirst with some Cabernet Sauvignon and continue the discussion over wine, as all good conversations should be. I am Tanner Hall.
I'm Travis Pajoli.
And I'm Jake Rudder.
Thank you, and welcome to this episode of podcast, which we are titling Bread and Butter, after the Cabernet of tonight. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, Cabernet Sauvignon, Bread and Butter from Napa, California. Are they all Californias? Have they just all been four?
All I've brought are Northwest, so I think they're Willamette or Columbia Valley for mine.
Mine was California.
California as
Not
well.
sure what valley. I think mine's Napa Valley.
Outside of
Napa Valley.
California, where's like the next most robust place that they're from?
Or in the U.S.
Sure, or worldwide.
So, worldwide, I mean France.
Sure, okay.
Spain, Argentina, and Chile are up there as well for South American wines.
I know this in case people were listening. They're like, okay,
sure.
so where did this come from?
Mine's from Acampo.
That's California.
I don't know where.
Are we keeping all of the ones up there? Is that what we're doing? We're just gonna, oh, that's cool.
So when we relocate,
I just noticed this.
So
now.
we're going to relocate the studio set up at some point in the next week or two, and we should make a display or something of the wine bottles. I think that would be cool.
I think so. Cool. That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Good job, whoever thought of that. It wasn't me.
Travis.
It was Travis. So, anyways, yes. We discussed tons of things. We have a few episodes already up on our YouTube channel. Please check that out. If you type in Left Right Cab on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, you'll be able to find this group. Subscribe, do all the stuff. Tell your friends about it. We record these usually every Thursday night, and they get put up pretty much right after, right? Pretty
next
quick.
day, pretty much.
Okay.
Yep.
And
I mean, you can see it on Twitch right afterwards, but then they're on YouTube the next day.
Good. So if those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, we have a structure or the first one we didn't. We kind of just shot from the hip. But we tried to establish a structure for the show. We're going to review the wine. We're going to tell you what we think about it, whether you should buy it or not. It's basically a trash or pass. We can call that segment. And then we grade it, and then we try and guess the price. And then one of us has a kind of a written out idea, subject to talk about for the first part of the show. There's an intermission, little break. We come back, and it's kind of a free-for-all kind of thing.
It's always like a thesis and then intermission and then kind of the topical week in review.
Right.
Last week was the kind of aftermath of RBG.
Yes.
Before that,
we talked about court packing. So that was in the previous episode. Oh, wait, is that in order? What was that one again? Blackstone? Episode Blackstone on the YouTube channel.
Blackstone was court packing and gravel bar. The first video episode was on Cuties and the Netflix controversy that came out of that. So,
and then we end the show with a lightning round of a couple questions from people that that just want to ask, whether it's political nature or kind of just silly fun questions, just to kind of play us out.
Please hop on, if you're watching right now, please hop on Twitch in that chat. Give us your questions now too.
We'll take live questions.
Yeah,
sure.
Now that we're plugged into the internet, I can have a live view up. So
excellent. We've poured glasses, but we have not drank. We have not tasted it. So you're seeing the first time of us trying bread and butter. Cheers, my friends. Well, you have to sniff, right?
I mean, that is the kind of douche sommelier approach. Is check the bouquet, see how it smells.
All right, Travis, you're the cab expert, so I'm going to let you take charge on this one.
So the wine markets itself as something with hints of vanilla, sort of mocha flavor, toasted oak. Typically when I see kind of toasted oak on a wine bottle, I'm assuming a Chard. It's usually on those ones to just sort of give it a drier without making it too acidic. The vanilla and mocha on it, though, definitely makes it a little sweeter. It is not as sweet as the first episode's one we had.
My favorite so far. This might be a close second, though. And I'm not a big mocha guy.
Yeah, soon we'll get you to start liking mocha and wine, and then actual mochas, and then you're going to move to coffee. It'd be perfect.
Can't do it. However, I have been weaning myself off of soda. I am 2 weeks in.
No soda.
No soda. I'm trying to lose that quarantine belly.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to
So-
that. No soda. I've just
so-
been drinking alcohol and water.
That's much better. So yeah, I've been off the soda too. I've been doing pretty much just diet soda if I do drink it though, and then lots of seltzer. Seltzer is my big replacement.
Just because it gives you that carbonation. It tricks your
Yeah.
brain. I tried to do that for a little bit, and I probably should go back to it. But
It also helps with beer for me because I definitely love beer, obviously. And so maybe not so well known on the stream yet, but I'm a big beer head. So is Travis, and there's definitely part of that experience is the carbonation of it.
we've talked about different breweries that are around in the area.
That was one of the questions I think last week or 2 weeks ago.
I think it's so yeah, in both beer, wine, gin, whiskey, kind of cider.
Irish whiskey over Scotch, I think, typically.
Yeah, I think we decided that it was bourbon and Irish whiskey over Scotch, which means that we're all unsophisticated goons.
Goons, yeah, right.
All right, so
Well, my opinion of this wine
Yes.
sorry, is like I think it's. I don't really get much of the hints on the label. I definitely get a more fruit forward,
am I weird that it's
kind of weaker bodied. Refreshing though.
right? Kind of smooth like butter, at least to me, like liquid butter.
It does have a butteriness
Yeah.
to it.
It definitely, if I were to just drink this straight out the gate, and this is more of like I think like a Bordeaux to like a Pinot Noir sort of blend.
Sure.
It's not, and when
It's
people
not
talk
super
about-
dry.
It's not super dry. It's also not. I think Jake, you said it best that it's kind of light body on it, which makes me think it leaning more towards like a Pinot Noir. Not bad. Like,
Not bad.
Not bad.
Fine drinking it.
Wanna give us some ratings.
Trash or pass?
If I went to a fancy dinner and it was on the table, I would be like, oh, all right.
Sure.
I wouldn't hate myself.
Okay.
There are wines that I've had that I would be like, I guess I'm drinking water instead.
Sure.
But
This is
I-
not
this
my
is-
least favorite.
yeah, this is
Scale 1 to 10. So we'll do the 1 to
very,
10.
very inoffensive cab. I would give it a 6.
6.
6?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's
I'm at a 7. But you know me, if it's sweeter and not as
Yeah.
dry, I'm going to like it. Like the first one, Reserve Gold, or was it Reserve Gold?
It was no.
Oh, Radius Reserve, sorry.
Yeah.
Radius Reserve is my favorite. I almost give it like a 9 or something. It was super sweet and vanilla, and
That
I,
was my least favorite.
It was
that
very
was your
sweet.
least favorite, but it's my super favorite. So because this is kind of sweeter and lighter and it doesn't give me the crazy cotton mouth, I'll give it a 7.
So I'd probably go. The first one was my least favorite. This is my next least favorite, but it's fine, drinkable, good.
Yeah.
Then the one I brought, and the one Travis brought so far, because yours was the Gravel Bar. I think that's still
Yeah.
my favorite.
I would probably agree.
I was the opposite. I think I was my least. I think I voted that like a 3 or
I
something.
think
Yeah, you were very adamant on it being terrible because it did have that very strong sort of mouthfeel. It was very kind of chewy and dry, which I absolutely love. If it's bitter, dry, full body, like if it's practically, if I'm drinking gravy, like that's where I'm at.
The visualization of that while I was drinking. Now, all right. Price is Right rules.
$16.99.
$12.99.
Jake wins. It's $14.99. Good, solid, just $15 cab.
At that price point, it is a perfect. You want to go to a fancy dinner, and you're like, shit, I don't know what kind of wine to get people.
Certainly palatable, no question.
Very inoffensive, very straightforward on it.
So if I was cooking dinner for friends and I poured everyone a glass of this, no one would leave and
I
discuss
think
it.
it's
I don't think anyone would leave.
It's a wine.
I
that
would have.
everyone
I want
can enjoy.
before all this. I actually was like, I'm going to come in with like a $40 bottle of wine. We're going to split like something higher than what we've been doing. I think the most we've done is like $22, $23
I think
something
so.
in that ballpark. So I'm going to go 40, 45, and then my car crapped the bed. And I had yesterday paid $1,300 to get all these repairs, and I was just like, ugh, and it just like wiped me. I'm like, you know what, $15 wine. Sorry guys, maybe next week.
Even with that, there's always something that I've read from different people, and a general consensus is price point does not always define the wine on it. I mean, there are international wine contests where $4 table wine knocks out these like fancy reserve and like caskmate sort of things. So I don't think price is always sort of what defines something as good, which is definitely a problem you see in the beer world, where it's like, oh, here's a $30 stout and it tastes like engine oil.
What was that one we had from? We had an Evil Twin one that was like $30 for a 4-pack,
Yeah,
and it was that cola one.
yeah, it was like a
It's supposed to be
Cola?
it's
it's supposed to taste like a soda.
and it was disgusting. It was
sounds
syrupy.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It was syrupy. It was sweet. It was just disgusting.
Yeah.
And it was $30 or $25. Sorry, Evil Twin. I like some of your beers. That one was garbage. Anyways,
Yes, but this is a wine show.
it's not left right beer, right?
Yeah.
That's the spin-off.
But yeah, again,
Maybe April Fools. We'll swap around and do a left right beer.
yeah, I would drink this very much.
Same.
I would be okay having this in my house.
Excellent. Bread and butter. You got. Would the average be 6.75 if we average all three?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that ballpark. 7, 6,
High
6.
six.
High
Yeah,
6.
high
High
six
6.
seems fine.
High 6.
Yeah.
That's a pass. That means we'll drink it again.
Sure.
So leading the topic for this week, Jake. I had done the previous one, and Travis had done one, so we're doing a rotating thing. This week is Jake. You go ahead and lead in what the topic is, and
Sure.
take it away.
So I have a pretty strong art philosophy background. So what I'm going to lean into is sort of leaning into that. There is some politics to it, but it's more tangential and not so much because I would, at least my perspective on this topic, I would focus really hard on the philosophy of it, right?
Okay.
And I would love to hear you guys' opinions on it. But anyways, we're going to talk about something that is kind of somewhat popular on the internet, not so much right now, but has been in the past.
Memes.
Yes, no. It's the
That'd be a
argument
great episode,
of,
actually.
of it's the art versus the artist conversation that exists and has existed for a long time. Oh, I got a little right up here. So this past year has been so culturally tumultuous with protests, pandemics, and shutdowns. It's easy to forget a very influential cultural movement that had up until now been center stage to popular discourse: the Me Too movement. What I'm about to argue is only tangentially related to it, but I wanted to get this out of the way first. I'm absolutely in support of the Me Too movement and the active effort to stamp out a culture of abuse and harassment, sexual or otherwise. In our media, sexual or otherwise, in our media, professional, and political spheres. Sorry, my comments are weird. My topic, however, is not about whether we should find, stop, and prosecute the perpetrators of acts, but rather if the works of those people have the ability to stand separate from them, right? If the accused or charged people, if their art loses its intrinsic value as well. This is a philosophical question that predates the Me Too movement. If you strip the moral implications of the question, you can reach back to French philosopher and literary theorist Roland Barthes, who wrote La Mort de l'auteur, which is an essay, a very famous essay, that in essence argues against the use of the author's identity as a basis for finding meaning in their work. Rather, that the art should be held on its own merits, and whatever intention the author had is a flawed, subjective, and limiting lens in which to view it. He argues that a text's unity lies not in its origins, but in its destination. In essence, if you stumbled upon a novel in the woods, with the author's credit torn from the pages, would that novel not still have its artistic value? Furthermore, is there not some level of futility in pursuing a moral purity when it comes to the consumption of art? Artists have been flawed and human for as long as we have created art. Wagner was an anti-Semite. Dr. Seuss made racist advertisements and political cartoons. Roman Polanski was arrested for the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl, but he met her at a Jack Nicholson's house. Do I think Polanski should have been prosecuted and imprisoned? Absolutely. But Chinatown, a movie he wrote, directed, is still a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Neither point negates the other. If the argument is that we represent our morality with our wallet, then what if we engage in that art without paying for it? Does that change anything? Or what about if the artist has already died? What if that artist has been tried and acquitted through our legal system? The question really is, do we have a moral imperative to ignore the works of people we deem to have committed crimes or have broached ethical lines? Are these works permanently tarnished by the misdeeds of the artist? Or is there an intrinsic value to the art without the artist?
That's a lot to unpack.
Like your guys' before me.
Yeah. So as you're reading, like I should have wrote it all down. Like mental notes of just like, oh, okay, bring this up or bring this, and then it's like, okay, well, hold on, what was the first thing I thought of? Oh, shit, like I'm losing track of everything.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I'm natural. Just right out the gate. You want me to just go first? Okay. So right out the gate, I side with the philosophy is a strong word. The idea of what the Me Too movement brings. I don't like the politics that the Me Too movement brings. I like
Actually, I should clarify that I mentioned that because I know that people will link these two concepts together, and there is a crossover. But I'm doing my best to separate the two at the same time, right? Because like, Me Too is a movement that has happened and is happening that sort of dances around the topic that I'm talking about, right?
Slightly,
So,
and
so
I think it just
kind of. I'm gonna
go.
kind of come through on this. So it's kind of looking at the Louis C.K.'s of the world,
Sure.
All of the films that Harvey Weinstein financed and careers that he launched. Are all of those tainted because they were
The art.
trash?
my initial argument is my initial thought is no.
So yeah.
At the end of the day, no. You could be the Zodiac killer, but if you painted a masterpiece, you know it's going to sell for millions. You know, and
I mean, Ted Cruz's dad is.
So again, just with the Me Too culture, the Me Too movement, I think it. Not to get on this topic of rape culture, I think it's pushing a narrative that isn't necessarily true in this country. I don't personally think a rape culture exists in this country. I think we are one of the leading countries that are anti-rape and suppress it and do everything we can. And I know one of the right's constant arguments is like, oh, well, if you want to stop, you know, the rapes from happening, then be more pro Second Amendment and all women should carry a gun. Like, there you go. The best rapist is a dead rapist. Like, so. But I know it's not the top. Culture is not the topic of your question.
Well,
here,
we have time to do both, really. So I knew that's also part of the reason why I brought it up because I know that there's.
I don't like the believe everyone without evidence. I don't like that. What's the book? Crucible. I don't like the blame. You know, say something to ruin someone's career.
Abigail Williams.
I think there's a weird sub-layer of cancel culture underneath the Me Too movement that, you know, because Kevin Hart maybe made a joke about, or Louis C.K. did a sexual thing, cancel him. Like there's some weird authoritarianness in it. But I believe the concept of women uniting to stop abhorrent men. I'm all for it. I just don't like the politics.
But
sure, 100%.
Cancel culture itself is truly flexing economic power, which is truly like a libertarian approach. Vote with your wallet, purchase and consume media of people whose views
it's
and
not
actions
it's not
you
just
support.
that it is there is a wallet and economic aspect, but it goes further. It goes to like, we will make sure you never get work again, and which now that's aggressing upon that person's children, and that's aggressing upon that person's family and their livelihood. And so there's a weird aggression to it. But regardless, I don't want to really focus on
microaggression.
Microaggression. I don't really want to focus on necessarily the rape card, because that's not really what you're talking about.
But I do think cancel culture is the element that sort of bridges it all to it, because
well, there's cancel culture with art too. If someone
that's what I'm sure for it.
Yeah.
So
like Louis C.K.'s movie basically got removed from distribution after, you know, the film.
By the way, in case anyone doesn't know, Louis C.K. liked to whip his junk out randomly in front of people, men, women, just at parties, and he thought it was the funniest thing. Not maybe the funniest thing, but
especially in there's a scene in his pseudo biographical show.
I mean, Louis. There's no question that Louis is a great show, even if you consider him to be abhorrent.
There is a scene in which Louis is explaining to his daughter that she doesn't have the right or ability to tell someone else how they feel, or that they hurt them. Which I find either the most ironic or hypocritical statement coming from Louis C.K. Because, yeah, he could sit there and be like, oh, I thought whipping my dick out was funny.
I mean, his initial response to it was good. He wrote an apology that was good, but then
he stepped away, and, you know, other comedians followed similar suit. Al Franken left elected office for it.
For much less.
okay, so as far as
Aziz Ansari left as well after another
basically
scenario that came forward. But when you look at their contributions to art, are we going to sit here and just be like, sorry, we have to burn every copy of Louis that's ever been? Yeah. Like, at what point does sort of cancel culture reach that point?
Do you think I forget his name? I should look it up. The voice actor for Cleveland on Family Guy stepped down because he's not a black man. He's a white guy voicing a black man. Also, the
it's a little different.
The girl. Well, I mean, it's art. I mean, Family Guy is a cartoon. It's art.
I think the
intention,
solidarity.
Also, the girl that voices the black girl on Big Mouth. I forget her name off the top of my head, but
Maya Rudolph. Or not Maya Rudolph. Jenny Slate voices her.
Maya Rudolph is the hormone demon.
Yes, but so
Jenny Slate is
Minnie. God, what's her name? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Jenny Slate is a white female comedian, and she voices a mixed race child.
Missy is the girl,
and she stepped down because she felt she wanted to express solidarity with, I'm not this character. But I think the crux of the question on it is, when you're taking the stance of art versus artist, if Nick Kroll was turns out he was a sexual predator, and
John Mulaney definitely is. Come on, that guy's fucking weird.
First off, just because John Mulaney looks like your neighborhood creeper, neighborhood predator,
he looks like he's on the list. He does.
He is.
We are all big fans of John Mulaney.
Oh, he's
100%.
Come on the show, John Mulaney.
Yeah.
My favorite bit of his is when he does the horse in the hospital. I don't know if you saw that bit about Trump.
It doesn't know what it's doing there. But everyone's tuning in to see what the horse gets into now.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I love that. It's like, oh, of course you would, you fucking horse.
I think my favorite John Mulaney stand-up is "What's New, Pussycat?"
Oh,
whoa,
yeah,
he
just
just
lives
over
into
a classic one for sure.
But yeah,
it reminds me a lot. Not to derail too much, but there's also a really good article I think on Vice where someone wrote an article at the same time as that joke came out about doing the same thing with the song "Boys Are Back in Town." And the article's called "The Boys." I continue to play "The Boys Are Back in Town" in my least favorite dive bar in my hometown. That's the name of it, and the article's great. But same joke though. It's weird. It's weird how art works like that sometimes, where two people will create basically the same thing and they'll stand alone.
Right, because it's just especially how they deliver it. Maybe
right.
the medium in which it was delivered to you.
Sure.
Marshall McLuhan. Effectively, the media itself is a message.
Sure.
So how you go about conveying information entails a certain subtext to it. Not to completely lose train on art versus artist. When we look at people like Louis C.K., Aziz Ansari, Al Franken, these are all comedians. So I think you brought up, or we're kind of skirting a piece where it's like, at what point does comedy, Kevin Hart, making a joke ages ago that didn't stick, or that was his position on it, it really brings into the piece where we need to ask, do we just write off all the contributions that this person had? Michael Jackson, very troubled man.
But arguably the greatest musician ever to live.
Pop musician for sure.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
If we make him Mount Rushmore, I think his face is on it.
Yeah, sure. Pop music.
Of music. He is titled as the king of pop.
Yeah.
So
I'd argue Bowie is probably more my favorite pop artist, but
worldwide, though. People
sales. What I argue,
and not just sales, but
when I argue about art, I don't care about sales or. Bowie is certainly more influential than Michael Jackson. For sure.
I don't know about that actually.
No,
I love David. Between the two, I am very much pro David Bowie.
Don't flock for
That's
Bowie.
That's not what I mean by influence.
Like
that's not what I mean by influence. I mean like actual influence on music at large.
I still think it's Michael Jackson.
It's Michael Jackson.
There'd be
we're gonna take a poll.
Viewers,
Left Right Cab viewers.
There'd be no Michael Jackson without David Bowie. I'm going to say it right now. Yep.
I don't know about this.
David Bowie paved
I don't think it plays
for
that
there
well.
to be a pop star, basically. Like he's.
Didn't Michael Jackson come out first?
He's members of the Jackson
Well,
Five.
sure.
Yes.
It's Michael Jackson 5.
But his solo career though.
Okay. Wait, hold on. He was a kid. He's a little baby.
But honestly, I'm still gonna say just cultural influence. Michael Jackson.
No.
I don't know.
This whole
Dave Chappelle has a skit where it's like Michael. Is it Dave Chappelle? I'm gonna say it's Dave Chappelle. It might not be Dave Chappelle. Don't quote me on it. He goes, you can go to literally any country. You can go to Ethiopia and they'll be like, Michael Jackson. or something like that. I think it's
Sure.
Michael Jackson.
So
Like,
I'm not necessarily
like
talking
him.
about cultural influence. I'm talking about like influence on music as at large. The creation.
subject for another show.
Yeah.
Music influence.
Anyway, art versus
Yeah.
artist.
So
Art versus artist.
Does
I have an example that I'd like to
does
bring up.
Does Thriller stand apart from allegations of child molestation?
Yeah, Michael
Yes.
Jackson is in my Spotify playlist. All his albums.
Sure, you personally feel that way,
Yeah.
but I guess there would be an argument to be had that there is some moral imperative to separate yourself. If you believe in a certain moral chain, then you should also separate yourself from people who violate that. I guess is some people's arguments. I don't necessarily agree with that
yeah,
because you can condemn a man without condemning his work. That's really the crux of the argument, or at least my opinion on it.
I mean, I think this is one where we're all in general kind of agreement on.
Yeah.
Kind of makes it a little hard to talk about.
Well, I mean, we definitely can find discrepancies. Like Bowie
probably-
more influential than Jackson, but
that's not the topic.
Well, that's not. That's
No,
not a. This is not an alternate fact.
sure. So when you brought up a point, and later in the
In the intro.
in your speech there about legality, did you bring up something like should be illegal or like should be like maybe I misheard?
I'll go back to it real quick. I think I know what you're.
But I guess it would be is this
because I asked
as far as American law is concerned? Because I bring that up because the first thing that popped in my head when you started talking about this, in terms of, funny enough, the original cancel culture, it was not from the left; it was from the right, and it was from the religious right. So what popped in my head first was Salman Rushdie,
Yep.
and his work with
Sure.
the Satanic Verses, and the far religious wanted his head, like tried, execute, like.
So Salman Rushdie is, I think, one of the few people like alive who has had. There is a fatwa on him from his writings on Islam, the religious right in the U.S. Truly wanted his head. Like they wanted him outlawed from everything.
It was
just
a
for
form of
speaking.
blasphemy. It was the original cancel culture, and it didn't come from the left; it came from the right. So, or I made the right, the maybe religious extremist part of that. But
But it's like
yeah. So, but the work itself is
brilliant.
and should stand the test of time.
And also, I mean, only a Sith deals in absolutes, but this is one place. This is the one place where I feel like it's.
Isn't that an absolute in itself to say that?
Sure.
Yes.
Only a Sith.
Which
Obi-Wan.
is the flaws of the Jedi Order.
But there is something absolute about the concept of like, if art can stand on its own, it just does. It just stands on its own, and whatever other moral or legal precedents we have in place to process those people are the way we do it.
So I mean,
I would never argue that like you have to watch Louis C.K. If you find him morally abhorrent or you can't stand to watch him because of what he's done, absolutely don't watch him. That is your right as an individual.
There was an act. One of the main actors. Have you ever watched The League?
Okay.
So Nick Kroll in The League, but the guy who plays Kevin, he got into a big scandal because he lied about being like at the World Trade Center during 9/11, like basically at Ground
Brian
Zero.
Williams did.
And yeah, he was like he gave this whole story, and then the facts came out, and people kind of reported, it's like, oh no, you were many blocks away. You were in New York, but you just weren't there, even though you told you were. And so he had to come out and give this whole apology. It doesn't make The League any less funny. The League is still hysterical of a show, but he kind of had to give the apology, and
So I mean, this is a debate show. So I will. While I do again personally think,
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
yeah, art should stand alone from its creator. However, those impacts are really driven by culture, and they're driven by a society. I mean, as Cuties was a topic a few weeks ago, World Renowned has won awards. In the U.S., people are abhorred by this entire.
Well, you were kind of
and they're actively boycotting.
you were kind of on the other side for that specific time.
Yeah, am I hypocritical then? I mean, call me out. If
No,
I'm,
no, I'm not
because
saying
here I
it's
am.
hypocritical
I'm
for
saying
it. I
like,
think
here's
that-
Michael Jackson being accused of all these terrible things, and I have like every song on my Spotify by him. But then here comes Cuties, and I cancel Netflix.
Right.
You know, why am I willing to?
So,
Maybe I value Michael
you value
Jackson's
the art.
Michael Jackson's contribution to art more than I value Netflix's
Sure.
contribution. Maybe.
Although Netflix could not be argued as incredibly influential on modern like serial.
media culture and the creation of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
How it's delivered? Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
not specifically, they own their own production studios. They make their own
Oh,
shows.
okay.
Uh,
Well, I mean, originally you had to order Netflix in the mail. It
was
came
a
in.
DVD
It came,
delivery service.
Yes,
I
it
still
was.
have DVD services for some
and
reason.
everyone was like, "Why would I ever go to Netflix? There's Blockbuster right down the road."
I buy Blockbuster.
I think there is one Blockbuster
Alaska.
left in Alaska.
Alaska, there's one. Hold strong, little
It's called,
Blockbuster.
it's got like the last
Yeah,
Blockbuster.
you can actually Airbnb it. So it
Excellent.
really goes and shows
Hold
you
strong. We
how
support
much money
you.
is there.
Last Blockbuster.
But so, like,
So-
to take that position, though, the impact of art is solely based on the culture in which it's consumed and in which it's presented. There are famous artists who their contributions to the art world were not appreciated until decades, almost hundreds of years after they were died. Van Gogh, for instance, died penniless. Everyone thought his art was garbage. And then, due to his family slagging that out for money and talking about how great it was,
Foundation.
did it then people say, you know what, this makes me feel something different. So right now, our immediate stance is like, oh, well, Michael Jackson, allegedly, I don't think he was ever convicted, but doing atrocious things. But Smooth Criminal's great. Thriller's phenomenal. Who knows if we will still say that in 50 years?
Well,
I mean, the Marquis de Sade wrote Celine, and people were like, "Oh my god, this is atrocious! This guy's a monster," and he was. Yet people say like, "This is a phenomenal text." There are authors in the Victorian eras who, I mean, Mary Shelley wasn't. I don't think she was Victorian technically, but
I think she's on the she's the cusp of it. Yeah.
honestly, I couldn't tell you the difference between Elizabethan and Victorian. But all that matters to it though is. You have many
she's
artists.
definitely not Victorian, actually.
Yeah,
now that I
that's
think about
much
earlier.
earlier.
Yeah.
So you have all of these artists who are, putting out their contributions, which aren't appropriately received until years
I think
later.
Mary Shelley
And I think
is
it's become.
a pop author in the time, but the influence kind of outshines that.
But that is my point, is that when we talk about separating art versus the artist and how we make these exceptions for these objectively terrible people now, it is because we interpret that and we are influenced in such a manner.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
We don't know if those contributions will still hold merit. For all we know, Paris Hilton's shitty DJ career is going to be the most influential thing ever. I mean, Wild Stallions brought and saved the universe.
So you had a question. I have a question too.
So all I want to say is, so I had I left this name off the list of people I mentioned earlier in my intro, specifically because I find him to be like the very crux, the very point.
The pinnacle.
So Woody Allen.
It's Woody Allen, where people either agree or disagree on this one. It's a man who married not his daughter, not his stepdaughter, married the
Bombshell, folks.
Married the adopted daughter of his ex-girlfriend. And
So he basically raised this girl.
He was involved in her life as a small child.
Yes.
absolutely. I'm not in no way defending that part of it necessarily. But what I'm trying to get at is that he did nothing legally wrong. And then the real thing people,
So wouldn't that just be a societal taboo?
sure, that's the one that
But
people.
I mean, it circles back to the question.
But there's
point of-
also a whole other
tolerance
layer
changes.
to Woody Allen where he was accused and acquitted well, I don't think he was acquitted. He was never actually charged. Actually, he was.
It was just brought up and
there was-
dismissed.
There was investigated and dismissed exactly of Mia Farrow's actual daughter. What's her name? I'm blanking out right now because I had it.
Honestly, I can only remember
The
Rowan.
daughter?
Rowan's
I know
Rowan is
the journalist.
Mia Farrow's
author,
daughter.
so-
Yeah, Rowan is the son,
Yeah.
and he, I believe I remember correctly, is
Sunyin Pevin.
no, that's his wife.
Dylan O'Sullivan.
Dylan, right? Dylan Farrow.
Dylan.
So that was the actual daughter of Mia Farrow, who he was accused of, but it's contemporaneous. Sorry, and if you look at if you look into the case to some extent, you can see how a jury wouldn't charge him of it.
Mhm.
I'm not saying he is entirely innocent, but I'm saying that the evidence doesn't point to it. And I guess what my point being is that this is a man who has made some incredibly,
His film-
undeniably influential films. One of the greatest directors
He'll
of all
stand
time.
the test of time.
Absolutely.
I will
and
present some.
And
objections to
his moral standing is at question in ways that we don't have a precedent to deal with, and that's why people feel like they should vote with their money, because he technically has not done anything legally wrong or has not been convicted of anything legally wrong, even though he's been through our legal process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people feel the need to go beyond that and vote with their money.
So here's the thing, though. But the wife, Sunyi,
Mhm.
Sunyi, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, she's a willing participant. Like she's consenting to being with him. Like it's
And
not
it-
forced.
yeah,
It's,
so
like,
the question.
So,
that's
like,
there
at this
is-
point-
It's marriage too. Like it's not
Yeah.
falling apart.
it's not. So at this point, it's like let him live and let live.
That's
Like
how-
So,
that's how I feel
but
about
this is where the
I
sort
might
of-
not do it, but
So when
Unless
you
we
look
want to
at
make a law
history,
against it, I mean,
Yeah.
so what you actually need to look out for it is with that sort of relationship that it's a stable marriage that we as outsiders see is the logical step of she was effectively groomed into being his ideal. Of course, maybe their marriage hasn't fallen apart because A, she doesn't know anything outside of him.
well,
B, has
Sure.
she been coerced into this relationship ever since she was a small child? I mean, it's generally
We don't
established
know.
that minors do not make consenting decisions. They can't make lifelong decisions to this. So
But we
really,
also
the
don't- we
question
also-
with her is we do not know if this wasn't some multi-year Epstein level coercion into this marriage.
I
I,
don't
will take it a
disagree
step further and say, let's put that exact same situation right now. Do you think any of Woody Allen's films would be available on Netflix or streamed if he
Happened
released
today.
them today?
he has struggled to some extent to find publishing for his more recent films, and not even just publishing, but distribution. That's the big one.
Sure. There's always going to be an indie studio
Um,
that'll launch whatever the fuck they want.
Sure. What I would say is that for me personally, I don't think it's great that it happened. I don't think it's too complicated for me to say we should have a hard and fast rule against it, though. That's where I find issue with it. And so if I can say it's morally questionable to me, maybe, but I don't see a way to police it. I don't also see a way to.
isn't that literally maybe what the libertarian argument is for like heroin?
Sure.
It's morally, I wouldn't do it, but I shouldn't be able to tell you what to do with your
I
body.
mean, that's like a lot of liberals feel the same way about drugs too.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's one big crossover I think between the two camps.
Though the question is still kind of there. Due to the unique relationship, I'll say, of
Sure.
Woody Allen
Not
and his
great.
wife.
Not great. Maybe, but
can-
we also don't
we
know
can't
the.
s- Yeah, we cannot say with confidence, and I don't think either of them. I mean, Woody Allen probably could, but I don't think he would ever self-incriminate. To say like, was this person coerced into thinking this is normal? Was she able to make these informed decisions on her own? And in truth, unfortunately, I'll never fucking know.
Sure. And she's been, and we also don't know what her life has been like inside the relationship. We don't know. We do know that the relationship didn't officially start till she was technically an adult. So it's like
Which
we have to
invites the
assume there was
question.
some level of financial stability.
there are these like we have
He
in
has
our
money.
minds.
Yeah.
We have in our minds these like hard and fast like absolute rules like. She has to be older than this before that would even be considered. She was like,
Which I always find interesting, especially in the U.S. And the U.S. specifically, there's variance in the consenting age of adults.
Yeah.
So in the state of Connecticut, it's 16. I think Mississippi, it's 13.
Kansas is 14.
Kansas is 14. California is a hard 18. So when we look at these relationships that sort of are established, are we made uncomfortable by them? Yeah, I think it's super weird that Woody Allen married his tangentially related adopted stepdaughter, I guess.
she wasn't.
So
adopted.
this
Never
brings me
adopted.
into
No, she was adopted by Mia Farrow.
Yeah, he never adopted her.
Yeah, but
Yes,
like
yeah, they were in the
I
relationship.
just want to read. So we had some chat interaction. I want to read some of that. So.
Chat interaction. Welcome,
Yeah.
chat. Hello.
Whiskey
Wow,
Vixen.
people
Is
watch
that you know who Whiskey Vixen is?
Yes, that's Ashley.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just want to make sure before I called her out. She says, I think the issue of art versus artist And cancel culture is that both aspects are separately subjective and therefore create 4 times the controversy on the topic. I can see the point in that. And then,
She's a smart cookie.
and we have I hate TW.
I don't know who that is.
Uh,
Welcome, I hate TW.
Yeah, welcome to the
Yeah,
Wait,
I know
TW?
TW.
You sure it's not TWD, The Walking Dead? Because I hate The Walking Dead.
No, it's IH8TW.
full stop.
What could TW?
Walking Dead. The only thing good out of that show was a cheap bottle of whiskey.
What?
They
And that is
they
it.
ask,
What do you-
they ask the question. They ask what about Roman Polanski? Is anyone reading this? I am reading this. And
Yeah.
Roman Polanski is something we mentioned in the intro. Similar story to
Yeah.
Woody Allen to some extent, although certainly wrong. Like certainly accused, certainly did it, certainly on the run from it, and bad. But so my point was, is Chinatown still a good movie, even though Roman Polanski is bad? So I guess that really kind of brings us back to the original topic, right? Is like we're talking about the artist can be bad and persecuted and shunned and thrown out of society, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about their work?
So I have 2 questions
Sure.
that all tie in, and it was going back. So, for many years, through the 80s, the 90s, maybe even early 2000s, multiple rap artists in their rap songs praised Trump, described themselves to wanting to be like Trump. I want to get that money like Trump. You know, like Trump was a thing to be aspired
Well, his
to
name
for.
was on a tower, so
Yeah. Trump is something for the black community for decades to be aspired to. You want to be like Trump. And then now not so much. Now, so does their art, their credit, does their rhymes, their message in their songs, should they be called as hypocrites for now the black community and the rap community is bashing
Well,
Trump as now he's president,
I
or
would
is he
say
still is he
no.
still something to strive to be?
So
I'm kind of curious.
Last week,
Does their
or
art
was it
get
last
called
week
into
or was it
question?
earlier? So I think it was either Sunday or Monday, definitely pre the first presidential debate of the 2020 election cycle. But
More on that.
was it the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times that published?
New York Times.
New York Times. They released, in essence, a synopsis of Trump's financial records for the past 15 years.
not great.
With the exception of the 2 most recent years when he was already in office. Now, revelations out of that aside, I would say that they're not hypocrites. They were misled because they thought Trump was worth money back then,
So
and he definitely is.
This is why I think your question's actually great. Because what you're asking is there room for growth too, and that's my.
I would say, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with Me Too and not cancel culture necessarily, but I agree with some of the principles of it. But where my problem lies in it is not the accusations, not the treatment. It's in the lack of room for growth, right? So I think that we as humans are inherently flawed, inherently
Delightfully Catholic of you.
sure, exactly. But like we have
We are drinking some blood tonight of
we
the
are all
yeah,
of the
subjective.
Savior.
We Democrats do this all the time.
We are subjective, and we all are constantly growing up from our prenatal stages, essentially. And
Ideally, some of us never grow up, but
sure, but
the goal.
So, but if someone does wrong, and it's in our legal system too. If someone does wrong and has the ability to grow past it and become a more full human being, should they not be given the chance to participate in society again?
Well, our prison system focuses more on recidivism rather than
Well,
rehabilitation.
we-
But that point
we
is
all probably agree on that point too. That's a
the-
problem.
In terms of criminal justice reform, yeah, we're all going to be on the same
absolutely,
page
yeah.
about that.
But when it comes down to it, like I actually do want to circle back to the Aziz Ansari, Louis C.K. piece.
Because they're kind of the easiest ones to talk about.
Easiest to, and I think that there's some room for discussion as to what sort of happened between them.
They're kind of the opposite too, in a way.
But it doesn't
They
make
are.
Parks and Rec any less funny. I love that show, and Aziz Ansari is on it. You know,
So I don't feel as strongly about Aziz Ansari's problems either, though.
So there was a op-ed, like an article that was published outlining a perceived instance of sexual assault perpetrated by Aziz Ansari. Now, validity of it aside,
Wasn't it second party too? Reported second party.
I believe so, that it was a second party
A friend
of the person who went on the
awesome.
date
So
with Aziz Ansari.
what Travis is saying is a game of telephone.
In
It-
essence, yes.
But
But,
anyways, continue.
that point aside, it was released. Aziz was like, I remember this date. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but clearly I'm not the one who can say otherwise. Like, that's how she felt. That's how she felt. and he kind of stepped away from media for a while. Tell me that it's okay.
Sure, Aziz Ansari stepped out of the spotlight because he didn't want spotlight on it, and then when he came back, why bring it up? Why put the spotlight on it? You got out of the game to get it off of you.
The timing, the piece that I want to draw attention to, though, is the timing and the re-entrance back to it. Aziz Ansari seemed very much like, I'm here if people want me. Louis C.K.'s was, I did my time, I deserve to be back.
So there's that. There's
And
also
and
that
that to me is the difference. Or, I mean, there's many differences to the scenario.
Also, Louis C.K.'s offense is serial, not one. You know, there's more than one occasion of it. So it's like it feels easier to forgive one
So,
transgression.
based on what was described, Aziz Ansari's sound like hearsay, whereas there's pretty tangible, multiple witness proof for
multiple
Louis
accusers
C.K.
for Louis C.K.
I also don't have it in front of me right now. But
I don't. The two, and I am not saying this at any point. The two are not the same,
Sure.
and that kind of brings the whole question into, for this cancel culture, as a not spin-off but a divergent path of Me Too. When you have people like Al Franken who didn't actually do anything with the exception of taking a lewd photo.
Not so good. Like lewd, I think is even too much of a stretch.
Silly.
Bad taste.
Bad taste.
Bad piece for it. But as a prominent Democrat in the Senate,
But he wasn't at the time,
he wasn't. No, this was when he was a comedian.
and she was in the military.
No, she was also a comedian. She then became, or she was an entertainer. She's now a Fox News
But
correspondent
this didn't come
now.
out until she joined Fox News as a
Sure, but
correspondent.
so isn't the same thing with, is it Justin Trudeau? Didn't he have a picture of him before he was
Blackface.
had blackface before he was in power in Canada?
So one of
So-
the things, one of the
so
things
you're
with Justin
so you're
Trudeau,
pro Trudeau now. That's interesting.
No, I'm not pro Trudeau. I'm just saying,
Trudeau's is actually
If
a
you-
unique piece, and I want to say that because
if you want to wear blackface,
Trudeau's,
then go fucking wear blackface. Like,
Trudeau's
to me.
is
So,
serious.
Tanner.
There are multiple instances
Oh boy,
of
here we
Trudeau
go.
and blackface.
Yeah.
That's where I think the left, at least in North America, gives Trudeau a pass.
But does the left give
But is it deserved?
Dave Chappelle a pass? Because in his show, multiple times he went as a white man, and he
So
lightened
that-
up
so
his
that-
skin.
hold on.
So-
he
hold
got
there-
white
there-
face.
There is
Hold
a
on.
whole
But-
other setup of
That is in
Yeah.
essence a parody of blackface. It's kind of a cultural comment, and it just does not. That's a false equivalency, I would say.
there is a difference. A
Unequivocally,
better
that's
Or is it-
situation
or-
I
but
would
the
say
right would-
is,
the right would
is
argue-
Robert Downey Jr.
I don't agree with that.
in Tropic
No,
Thunder and blackface.
I think that blackface is better.
I mean, it's funny.
So, but that gives a whole piece.
Hard
There was
fast
no
rules don't fit,
cancel.
I don't
There was no cancel
But does he-
culture for Robert Downey Jr. in blackface.
There wasn't.
I would
I
watch
agree.
that movie today. I don't.
Tropic
I
Thunder's
don't think it's
fantastic.
you know why? I don't think it's problematic
Because it's satirical.
it's satirical of blackface. It's
Yeah.
it's addressed in the movie several times. It's clearly.
But isn't just
It's clearly addressed that he is doing something stupid and wrong by
And-
being in blackface.
Justin
there are-
Trudeau is also not?
No, but what I'm saying is that they are giving a pass to Trudeau, undeservedly so, because
Fair.
Trudeau's
Okay,
was
right,
not
right.
one instance. There was a senator from
So
the South.
one is bad, more than one okay.
So you had said before he was
Where are
in
these
power.
rules written?
So you said before Trudeau was in power. Trudeau's father was Prime Minister of Canada. That man has been in the public scene, in political
Okay.
spheres, for almost his entire life. So there is no possible way we can say, oh, he was young and dumb, and he wasn't, this wasn't his thing.
There's something else that comes after that.
Okay,
And he generally falls down.
Hillary Duff, young and dumb. She wore a pilgrim for Thanksgiving, for Halloween. She was dressed as a pilgrim. Her husband her boyfriend was a turkey or something like that. They went as pilgrim.
No, she
or
was a
something like
Native
that.
American. He was a pilgrim.
Or something like that. Yeah,
So
sure.
that controversy has been so evaporated. Like no one even thinks. About it.
I know, but I'm just using.
Which is
just drawing it
interesting.
as an
I mean,
example.
People, you look on Reddit now, and there are dilemmas.
I know I'm
that
bringing this
people
into
have.
cancel culture, and I know it's not the
We
real
really,
topic.
really lost
like-
the time. Well, that
I'm
was the
sorry.
intention, I think,
But,
was to
I mean,
invite the conversation.
Cancel culture itself is kind of a natural progression of art versus artist.
It's
Because we're taking the position of how do you go about if this person has committed wrong, either to the social contract or to the legal contract in which they exist, what is the repercussions of that?
so. I think
And the
my,
natural one is cancel culture.
So I think my synopsis, and this is certainly not all encompassing, but I think everyone has the right to choose who they want to participate in from an art consumption perspective. I think that said, no one has in my mind, a moral obligation
A little bit, yeah, please.
to ignore art for any reason, pretty much at all, unless the art itself actually.
What if the people?
So if the art itself actually engages in something that's morally reprehensible, the art piece, not the artist, that's different.
I will.
So what if
introduce Maplethorpe, prominent fringe pseudo-erotic photographer,
Sure.
depicting very graphic, very I think lewd would actually be an understatement for them. These physical actions, people would, I mean, he was panned and said like, oh, this is immoral, this is terrible, we never want to see this, and listed as one of the most influential photographers.
But it's all about context, right? Like if it was child pornography, obviously the answer is no.
right?
Right?
Is pornography art?
Nude statues, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Are nude statues of children pornography?
No.
Why?
Because they're not engaging in an actual.
It's not an. It's an inanimate object.
Yeah. It is literally.
It's not.
So no,
right.
If there is there is an inanimate object of a child.
A stone statue.
Stone statue. Sure. It was the medium at the time because they didn't have photography.
But here's the thing. Very different though. It's
Are they
literally
building this for sexual arousal? Are they doing it for?
Was Cuties designed for sexual arousal?
I think it was just a by consequence of like
But that's my
to a
point.
percentage of the populace.
But
People will
but does Cuties?
I mean,
masturbate to anything.
Does Cuties-
You'll masturbate to people squishing fruit in cowboy boots.
Oops, that's my kink.
difference being,
I don't mean to king shame.
the difference being
But
there's a clear line where something becomes, abusive to the subject at hand, right? So if an actual,
like coercing a small child into becoming your future bride.
sure, or an actual.
If
Ellen
there's
did.
evidence,
That's not his art
We-
though. So that's kind of removing yourself from what I'm about to say.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if the art itself encapsulates the abuse, that is a different perspective, right? Like if you see actual rape on a video, that should never, ever be shown. That's different. That's different than simulated rape.
Now, what if a artist, what if a very
is.
dark and brooding artist, maybe she was molested as a child, and depicted it in some way in a very violent but emotionally moving painting,
Sure.
but it's clear to see what's going on in this photo. Someone's being held down in this photo, or something like that.
That's very different because that is still definitely artifice, right? The actual act
of an abhorrent act.
the
Of
actual
okay.
act of filming someone being raped is definitely something no one should watch or should not be supported financially. That's different. It's
Right.
actually the act. It is not artifice anymore. That is reality.
So end the what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The snuff film
Sure.
industry, that black market,
real
that
snuff film.
real snuff film, like
Not whatever.
Not Cannibal Holocaust.
Not Cannibal Holocaust. Not what is it?
Serbian
film. Like those are fake. stuff.
right,
I
but
feel
that's
bad
still
that I'm-
okay. First of all, it's still a rough film. I like
Certainly.
Sure.
when I watched
is
it.
that
And,
And no one should be.
Is that not art?
Give me a
It's
second.
literally,
Does
it's literally
gore porn-
artifice, so it kind of actually is art. You know what I mean?
So I also look at the entire industry of Saw, of Hostel, of gore porn
Yeah,
film.
okay, I don't know. Serbian film is on a different level of gore porn.
sure.
To me,
Sure.
enough to I could watch Saw and Hostel and be like, this is a fictitious film. There's something real about Serbian film for some reason. The way maybe it was depicted, it's like I'm watching almost a weird documentary and like not.
I mean, I think
That's how Cannibal
it's-
Holocaust.
I think
is
I
actually
think our
structured.
friend Dan Lin actually might be watching today. We watched that movie together. He left the film.
Right.
And I believe he should have. I believe he has every right to. Like it still has abhorrent elements to it, and I think all art outside of this conversation, all art has this sort of like judgment weights in your head, subjective. Where is the horribleness of what you're seeing worth the value it's portraying, worth the message? And I think Serbian film probably does. The answer is no.
So I would
To
like
any listeners, by the way,
yeah,
don't
don't watch them.
That's
They're,
it.
they're not good
That's
films.
it.
They're not good film, but it's you have.
Cannibal Holocaust is actually kind of a good film.
I guess I'm maybe talking about Serbian film,
But
particularly. It's rough. There's
It is violence for the sake of violence.
it's there's weird pedophilia in it. There's a murder necrophilia kind of scene, and it's
So I'll leave
and
it.
and as far as the industry is concerned, the industry that's in the film that's like kind of spearheading it all and making this guy do this stuff is like praising it and encouraging it.
Well,
and
it's not. So it tries to portray itself kind of as the new Cannibal Holocaust. What Cannibal Holocaust does so well is a film that's talking about the exploitation of
Indigenous people.
Well, indigenous people, but people like powerless people, right?
Right.
And using them as like these like in media to portray something at all with no regard to their person, their identity, their self. It's a very good film. I would say.
What's Serbian film trying to do then? Because I think
Serbian film is trying, doing, and failing. That's what I would say. But going back to Cannibal Holocaust,
it's like borderline snuff.
Yeah, going back to Cannibal Holocaust though, everything with humans is fake. It's artifice.
Animals, it is not.
The animal abuse
they do in fact
is real.
abuse
And
I don't.
And Cannibal Holocaust.
Yes, and that's where my problem with it is. But
So I would actually like to kind of take a few steps back.
We should at some point roll this up a little bit.
I'll go to the break.
I do want
But we
to.
can find one argument too.
Excellent. Stanley Kubrick is known for very involved, or was known for very involved cinematography for, in essence, torturing his actors. Should we, and I think it's safe to say, The Shining's a phenomenal film. He did Space Odyssey, 2001.
Yeah, what you're talking about The Shining.
Did the actors?
The Shining. Sorry, what did I say?
You're specifically talking about
The Shining.
Shelley Duvall in The Shining is what you're talking
Yes.
about. She was sort of abused, might be a stretch, but she was definitely pushed to a mental end in that movie, and he got a ridiculously the best.
The shots you
performance.
see from her are of genuine terror.
Terror. They are terror, but that's mostly like she's run ragged throughout the filming of it, and she's so exhausted and distraught that you're seeing that in her face. It's not like she's afraid that Jack Nicholson is going to kill her with an axe. That's different, but there is definitely some level of abuse in it, and it did create also great art. So I guess what you're saying is definitely walking my line for sure.
Was she strong enough and mentally capable enough to walk away?
Sure.
Was she willing enough to refuse the paycheck?
And she talks about the film. She speaks about the film in that regard too. It's like it's almost as if and you could say there's some grooming and some some Stockholm syndrome stuff going on with this. But
you can always state that there are people in positions of power with economic coercion for it.
But
Weinstein.
I would say
Weinstein is a great example for it. Who's to say that?
Not to defend, but I would say that Stanley Kubrick's intention was never sexual and never exploitive on purpose. I mean, if there is exploitation probably involved.
Exploitation, I'd say yes, but it was never for sexual gratification.
It was for the art.
Yeah.
The only
let me wring this towel out and get every drop of art I can get out of this, of emotion I can get out of this person.
Do I think that should be replicated? Probably not. Do I think that film is one of the greatest? It may be the greatest film of all time, or at least definitely the greatest horror film of all time, no question. Absolutely. I mean, it's top 5 films of all time in general, I would say.
I'm trying to think of what the film was, but another director made. It was some kind of survival film. I can't remember. God, I'll look it up at some point. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But I just remember reading that he made them stay out in the woods and survive for 5 days. You have to.
I mean, there was an entire genre of film that pursued that sort of survivalist horror. I mean, while the Blair Witch Project was completely fabricated and everyone was, going back to hotel rooms and stuff, it sparked an entire industry of let's truly put these performers through the gambit, or gamut, whatever the word is.
I think it's gambit.
I think so too. But anyways,
we're drinking wine. We can miss
really push these people to the edge, because that is where you get sort of that peak performance of people. If you want to really capture the essence of fatigue and dread, I would say do that, or talk to your closest millennial, and they'll tell you all about how.
So we have one more
Sure,
question that's popped up, and maybe wrap up on this. Dixie Wolf, he's a friend of mine, Andrew. You know who Andrew is.
What's up, Andrew?
Look at us doxing them, like literally.
Yeah,
their real names on the show.
He threw. Well, I mean, I didn't say last names.
That is fair.
He threw out. He asked if you guys had ever seen Last Tango in Paris. I've seen it. Bertolucci.
I know of it. I have not seen it.
It's a very good film. I highly recommend you guys watch it. Does have some problematic elements to it. There's specifically like a rape scene that people speak about in that film that is pretty brutal.
So, in conclusion, we are very pro art and are willing to look past atrocities of the artist if the art is good enough to stand the test of time and move enough people in society to stir some form of emotion. I'm sure there's maybe an artist we haven't thought of that, or that when you look at their art, it draws hate and bile and disgust, but that's still an emotion. It's still raw.
Sure.
And it still should be respected? Is that in a way?
So we should all respect cuties.
So go back to the Bertolucci question. Specifically about that rape scene that's in that. I just want, if you guys haven't seen it, and it's hard to talk about it without you guys seeing it, but there's a rape scene in it that you should watch the film. It's actually a great film, but there's a rape scene in it where the actress said afterwards that even though the rape was simulated, it was really scarring for her. It's something she has basically PTSD over it.
Wow.
In the same way that kind of Shelley Duvall says that she kind of did too.
Yeah.
Although it's easier for us to look at, I think it's a
We
very American.
give the exception to Kubrick.
Sure, but Bertolucci's at the same level of like acclaim though. But what I would say is that we as Americans have an easier time stomaching violence than we do sexual assault.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, like Born Identity, no problem. Shoot him up. Shoot him in the head.
I mean, people are
problem.
impacted far
James
more
Bond,
when a
like-
dog gets killed
like-
in a movie.
Sure.
Oh yeah, John Wick. Oh, it's over. We're killing everyone.
What I'm saying is like the violence that may have negatively affected Shelley Duvall in The Shining is less. It's non-sexual, or the sexuality of it is not necessarily explicit.
But I mean, trauma. I mean, at the risk of overgeneralizing,
Whereas in
trauma is trauma. These
in Last
people
Tango
were
in
scarred
Paris,
from it.
it's sexual assault, and we as Americans, for some reason, really attach sexuality to being problematic across the board. But isn't violence just violence, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the easiest way to put it?
Aggression upon another is an aggression upon another. I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah,
the libertarian says whether you do it to my body or my wallet.
Well, that's pushing it.
Right.
That's definitely pushing it.
It's still aggression. It's still non-consensual aggression.
Anyways, we should watch Last Tango in Paris, and we can maybe talk about it in the future episode. It's a good
I would like to
film.
point out that I'm not equating rape to taxation. Okay, and not doing that.
That's what it
Is
sounds
not
like.
rape
No,
of your
no.
wallet.
No,
Um,
one is far more traumatizing and scarring. I'm not saying that. I'm just using it as an all-around principle of aggression.
So I think we're like way into the hour now, so we're gonna take a break. We'll
Break.
come back, talk about topical. Just so you guys know, we're gonna come back and talk a little bit about the debate, and then we'll go into your questions, and we'll have a good time.
Excellent. Thanks for
All right,
listening. We'll be back.
Be back in a few minutes. And we're back.
And we're back. Excellent.
So this segment I want to call, since we keep doing it, at least it has a cork.
Right. So I guess if you're just joining us, the first half of the show, we talked a lot about art versus the artist, whether if artists commit atrocities or things that are faux pas in society, if that invalidates the value of their art in society. And we kind of all came to the consensus. We tried to pick each other's brains a little bit and try and find where we could disagree, but we didn't really find many spots, and we all kind of agreed that no, the art, if it's good enough, stands the test of time.
We might disagree a little bit on the outside part of it when we talk about like Me Too and the culture around that sort of situation, but I think the core, the full philosophy of it, we're kind of in agreement.
Now that said, I think we're all kind of in agreement that culture will change over time, and what we say, like, it'll stand the test of time.
Let time decide that.
Let time kind of decide it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was telling them off camera that what I wanted to say in the first half was I like to take the South Park approach of it's either all okay to make fun of or it's none of it's okay to make fun of. So it's art should be able to art should be able to depict anything, no matter how controversial, and that's that. So second half of the show. A little more shoot from the hip, a little more casual, a little more free-flowing. Then after that, we'll go into the lightning round questions from some of the fans. If we'll continue to take questions randomly through on the live chat. Thank you for watching. We greatly appreciate it. You notice my words are going to slur and I'm going to stumble. It happens every episode. I get a little as I'm drinking more wine. It gets rough. But
Please continue with the questions.
I'll try to power through.
Please share it on your various social networks.
So what I have been flooded with questions on is what everyone else is talking about, and that's the debate. The shit show of the debate that was Tuesday night.
Yep. So
George Stephanopoulos, after that it was done, and it went back to like the newsroom, back to like what they're gonna, the analysts in the panel,
the talking heads.
The talking heads. He literally like looked at the camera and was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, in my 40 years of covering debates, that was the worst debate I have ever witnessed and seen." He personally apologized.
I think, was he the one who ended it with like, "This was a discredit to democracy"?
Maybe it was him. Yeah, it was bad. And Chris Christie was on the panel. So he goes, "Chris, you helped President Trump prepare with this. Is that what you guys went over?" And he's like, "No." Like, we were like, you could be aggressive, but that was on a different level. No one likes to beat up on a person who's already dead. Like, no one wants to beat up on Grandpa. Like, that's just...
Yeah, I actually was listening to what Chris Christie had talked about.
Wow, my God, I got so much from that.
What Chris Christie had mentioned from it, and yeah, it was very much a case of, he's like, be aggressive, keep him on his toes. But that wasn't the case. Keep in mind that, so Donald Trump interrupted Joe Biden on almost every question.
There was none. I can't think of one that, except when maybe Chris Wallace said enough, or like your team has agreed to 2 minutes of closing argument.
That is the thing, which really speaks volumes to me about Donald Trump as both a debater, or lack thereof.
Is he a
formal?
Can I say it? Is he a master debater?
No, not at all. He would have been DQ'd from almost any style of debate. And the thing behind it is the fact that he agreed to adhere to the terms of that debate of 2 uninterrupted minutes of presenting time. Now, it speaks volumes of a man who could not even deliver on that.
All he had to do, I think,
not talk.
All he had to do was be slightly thick-skinned, which I know was hard for him, but he had to be thick-skinned and actually quiet.
He needed to be president,
and because he doesn't. President need to be presidential, but he didn't need to say a word. He could have just, when the questions come to him, answer them as best he could. He's not the greatest, most eloquent of speakers. But Biden is definitely not the most eloquent of speakers.
Don't tell him that. He's the best speaker.
Yeah. Ask anyone.
They'll tell you.
Better than anyone.
He doesn't know who they are, but they're saying it. That he is...
But Biden, even when Biden did kind of get his couple minutes to go, they sounded rambly. They sounded kind of incoherent, not super tied together. And he would, like kind of what I'm doing now, like he would kind of try to have trouble formulating his words.
Was he
But
on
he
performance
he
enhancing?
has a stutter though.
That is the thing.
He
It is very well documented.
I have a stutter too.
Joe Biden has a stutter. There are young kids who have stutters who write to him fucking every day. And some PR clown on his campaign is like, oh yeah, you know, Joe has made it through hardships. Developing or working through his stutter was one. The death of his family was another.
So I sent you that list of times to drink when X happens, and there's like 5 or 6 things on the list. We were sloshed, and like 8 minutes in, like it was bad.
I mean, I think
It
my
was comedic.
contribution
I was
to it
laughing.
My contribution to those rules were, but every time Trump interrupts, not knowing that
It was
he
gonna
was
be
going to
that
read every
time.
single
You
question.
just have to take the bottle,
Killed it.
just
Yeah.
Just
go,
down
like-
down through.
So, question for you guys: how do you feel? And then I think we might disagree. This is the thing. I think we might disagree. That's why I'm asking. Okay, what do you feel about Proud Boys? Stand back, stand by.
Stand down, stand by.
Stand down, stand
Proud
by.
Boys, stand down, stand by.
Okay, so my first initial action is, well, you know, Joe Biden also didn't denounce Antifa. He said it's an idea, not a group.
And I agree
Bullshit.
with that 110%.
Oh, fuck that. No way. He should have 100% denounced the violence and the bully
But he didn't
tactics.
say Antifa stand by either, though.
He did, but he also, but I.
He-
oh,
he's
so
actually
I'm
been-
not.
he's
Trump
been-
definitely could have phrased it better, and I hate to be that guy. It's like Trump could have said it better. He could have, but he in the statements following, he says, they said, "Will you denounce white supremacy?" And he goes, "Sure, yeah." He says it right away. Yeah, he answers the question right away. Yes. And he goes, "Will you do it?" He goes, "Who do you want?"
Why do you need to ask me about it? Ask Biden about Antifa is actually what
Sure,
he says.
he
to
definitely
Biden.
deflected. He definitely deflected, and I think Biden should answer about Antifa.
And Biden
But
did come out and say, destruction of property is bad. Committing violent crimes is bad. Like he's like, these are all things.
Again,
if someone says,
but
"Are
he
you
also
anti-fascist?"
just like Trump never said white supremacy is bad. He never said Antifa is bad. He never just black and white
because
said
the
it.
two are not the
They're not the
same.
same. Because
Being white
anti-fascism
supremacists-
is like a core of our country.
They're
Yeah.
literally not anti-fascist when their tactics are fascist in nature. So
So
their
with the
idea,
approach of that,
is what he said. He said-
which is what Joe Biden has said.
Yeah.
Said that these tactics, he doesn't support them. He is
The
vehemently
idealism of
opposed
being
to it.
against fascism.
there's
is
power
that's what
behind
he's
saying the name is abhorrence. There's power
There-
behind saying Antifa is.
There's power behind
Bad.
saying, "Proud Boys stand by."
So I'm not disagreeing with you on this. I'm saying that the 15 to 20 seconds
There
before
we go.
Given
This
this.
is what I
15
wanted. I want us yelled at each other. I'm glad we got there.
Okay, so the 15, 20 seconds before he says the Proud Boys statement, which was bad. Definitely a gaffe. I think it was more of a gaffe than a sincere statement. I hold one second. He said, "Chris, who do you want me to will you denounce white supremacy?" Yes. He says, "Yes, I will." And he goes, "Who do you want me to name a name? Who do you want me to say?"
Biden says Proud Boys.
He goes, "Who do you want me to?" Trump says, "Who do you want me to name? Name it. I'll
Frame by
denounce
frame,
them."
Biden
Like,
says Proud Boys. He throws a name out there.
Yeah.
Chris Wallace doesn't.
sure.
And then he says, Proud Boys, stand back, stand by. Or stand down, sorry. Stand down, stand by.
Right. The standby was the gaffe. He could have just said, I don't even think stand out. It's a
Stand
terrible
down.
choice of words.
But in the culture, so even if it's a gaffe, in the culture where he's also saying that he wants his supporters to go and police polling stations, there is a.
Do you genuinely believe Trump is a white supremacist?
I think he's an
So
opportunist.
when I look at what sort of this,
But
this
not
push of
white power,
supremacy-
Nazi, hand in the air.
I mean, his dad
hold on.
was, and it's very documented that
And
he
also,
was a
if
white
it, I don't
supremacist.
think it even matters. I think if it offers.
But are you going to suffer
opportunity-
from the sins of your father? I don't think it's fair.
No,
you're
but I
missing
think
my
when you
point.
push your entire life to go and try to win approval from your father, you adopt similar ideas.
But when he has
Trump-
more blacks in administration, more Hispanics, and more women in his administration than
when,
Obama
when
did.
you, when
but
you
these
profit
are
off
truths.
of when you actually engage in discriminatory housing policies, when you are actively sued repeatedly for these things.
Oh, he's a
you
terrible businessman.
you
I'm not
set
going to defend his
precedent.
businessman.
You set precedent. In the same way, when Charlottesville happened, he had a fucking home run piece to just be like, no, there are racists and white supremacists here, and we don't support that. And what did he say? There are good people on both
I'm
sides.
going to look up. Would you like to know the rest of that quote? There's more to that quote.
But
There's-
go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
sure.
Well, I just want to say what I was trying to say earlier is that I don't think Trump is a white supremacist for its own
Because
sake.
that's a
I don't think he's a white supremacist for its own sake. I think
So
he's inherently an opportunist, right? And if he sees opportunity in courting those people, he will do it.
No, but
And
what's the
there-
PolitiFact one on it?
He doesn't
Go on
have.
factcheck.org.
I don't
Trump
see
has
him as
condemned white
having a
supremacists.
moral compass. You know what I mean? That's why I think.
So the fact that Trump is an opportunist, I think, is fine, and I mean, him being an opportunist is not fine. But I mean, arguably, that's the point of any businessman, is to reap benefits of all opportunities for it. So
therein lies the problem with capitalism in the United States.
man, we're just getting in all these anti-libertarian approaches right now.
I know, right? Go ahead, dude.
But throughout it, I think
Okay,
when you establish
Andrew
a trend,
says, no, he said stand back.
oh, it was stand back.
It was stand back, not stand down.
Wow, I mean, you would think stand back is just, you know, not de-escalate, because stand down would have been that.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. We agreed that the hate and division must stop, and must stop right now. We have to come together as Americans with love for our nation, true affection. Really, and I say this so strongly, true affection for each day. 2 days later, after that statement of good people on both sides, KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
You're right.
Done.
That
On
would be
record.
something in 2017. Why didn't he say that
On stage. Today.
on stage Tuesday?
Yeah.
The point
It's
is
almost as if
he's-
someone grew, but not in a good way. He's realizing that the fastest way for him to get reelected is
Delegitimize our
to,
election.
well, not just delegitimize that and then push it to a Supreme Court, which he is, you know, stacked.
Stacking.
But with that position on it, it is very easy to say the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville is what I believe that was called.
You know what? I'll say.
But it
unequivocally,
continues through it.
I support him saying that. I'm glad he did.
That is the appropriate response that he should have said for it.
Absolutely. No question.
However, actually, no, it still isn't.
It's in the right direction.
Because when you
at
say
least.
that there are, you don't congratulate someone for not murdering someone. You congratulate them on actively doing something to prevent violent crime.
So here are the actual words of President Trump, just because I want to actually get the quote.
Sure.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo-Nazis, and you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had that people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures you did. You had people in that group that were there to protect the taking down to them a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Another question at that press conference, Trump became even more explicit. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. He said that literally in that sentence.
2017.
But your point
Yeah,
was
you're
he
right.
said
My
this,
point is that
and
it establishes trend.
and I just said no. He just denounced it. There's evidence he
in a
denounced it.
different article, right? In a different time.
No, so in a similar, or in his
But-
press.
But your point
to
was
defend
that
you-
your point
yes.
you made was he said they're very fine people on both sides. I said, well, no, there's more to that quote. Don't just give the trope argument of the
that
left.
is the overall piece of, here is him saying, there are people who attend an alt-right nationalist rally who may or may not be
I disagree with the Occupy Wall Street movement, but there's very good. You were there, and
I
you're a
was.
very good person
I'm an okay person at best.
on both sides. And if I said that publicly, the
But
right would
both
have-
sides at OWS were
The
investment bankers who in turn brought on one of the largest economic crashes.
But let's say I had a
due to
platform.
risky
Let's say I
behavior.
had a platform and people took my word seriously.
Like the presidency.
But the presidency, sure, some form of political office where I had some sway and power. And I said people at Occupy, I knew people that went there. There's some good people there. The right, the conservative, would have my head and say, no, they're all socialist
I don't
nuts.
know. I don't know if it's the same.
So OWS.
So hold on.
Well,
So,
no.
socialists and white
let's-
supremacists are not equivalent. Can we just say that right now?
Yeah.
That's clearly there's no equivalence there. Socialists are not the flip side of white supremacists.
You're right. More people have died under socialism than by the hands of white supremacists.
Socialism in a fascist perspective. I'm talking about. You're talking about like.
So
You're
yes,
talking about
fascists are bad.
Yeah,
Would you like to say that you are anti-fascist?
Antifa's not anti-fascist. They literally use fascist tactics to get events canceled, to
There is-
suppress free speech, to
But
get
are
you,
they- are they
use
not?
bully pulpit to get you to
So,
think their
as-
way.
as-
But
It's
I'm
so.
going
as
to
you would
echo
say- as you would
position.
say,
Are they
Proud
not
Boys-
flexing their
we're sorry
own
about them. If the mics are, you can't hear anyone. We're so sorry.
So to kind of bring that into a position, and I'm glad that we talked about cancel culture on the first half of this. Is this not truly a sort of libertarian approach? You have a group of people who are trying to flex their socio-political and economic capital to influence the social norm of society. That, I would think, is textbook libertarianism. So why?
I disagree because when you start to approach, Antifa or Black Lives Matter or anything using physical force and violence upon private property and upon private individuals.
Private property has no rights. The people who own it do. So destruction of it is, you could perceive it as violence against that owner.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, in Kenosha, when the
goddamn 2-for-1 episodes. Sorry,
these,
2 against 1 episodes. Son of a bitch.
But
I was having more fun when we were all agreeing.
I was saying before, I
Kenosha,
like the flow of that. It actually works pretty well.
with Kenosha, I don't remember. I think it was an electronics store burned down.
I thought it was a car lot.
I think it's an electronics one, and Trump brought the prior owner of it because he supported him on it. However, the reason why he brought the prior owner, who hadn't owned the building for like 20 years, was because the current guy was like, yeah, it sucks. All of this is insured, and that's why we have insurance. I'm not going to go and speak and support Trump on this. Now, that said, was that a liberal who didn't want to go and be used as a sort of straw man for Donald Trump? Yeah, that's, he's entitled to go and represent himself in any other way. The fact that Trump then used someone unrelated to the building and presented him as though he was the owner kind of sucked. But when it comes down to this is my actual question.
So I thought we were talking about like the debate, and so
Yeah,
we're going to weird past 2017
with violence.
Other things,
So violence as a form of protest, is that an acceptable route? Because in truth, and the way that I would like to present it
still not about
is
the debate, but
still not about the debate, but arguably still could be because of Donald Trump constantly, shouting down everyone, engaging in some form
verbal
of violence.
Verbal violence, sure. Okay.
Now, not the same.
I disagree
not the
with
same.
the verbal violence. I mean, that say what you want.
Verbal
Words.
aggression.
But like, if
Sure,
I
verbal
was
aggression
just
is a better
like
word.
shouting you down, all
Words
the
are not
time,
violence to me. Yeah.
I agree.
People would, yeah, I would somewhat agree with you, but people would disagree too.
Oh, I know. I definitely know. Like your words are violent. To I don't know. I think violence is an objective truth. When somebody goes on college campus and speaks, whether it's a conservative speaker or a far left speaker, no violence has been committed on an individual, even if they're saying.
So you're saying violence is inherently physical, is what you're trying to say?
I think it's inherently objective.
So
I think it's
the
literally
Supreme Court has identified what fighting, like quote unquote, fighting terms are, and words to incite violence.
Sure,
And those are
I
not
understand a call.
protected by the First.
Right, call to duty. Call to duties are hate speech is a whole different thing, but like a call to action. I'm sorry, not call to duty. Call to action to yell fire in a crowded theater. This is not protected under free speech.
Stand by.
Standby is protected. Now, if he was saying
Bomb on an airplane. Things like
So
this.
a directive.
this is why I don't fly with Jake, because his real name is Jack, and I can't say hi to him on a plane.
If I were to make a Twitter post, or if I were to make a statement and say, like,
that.
you know what, I wouldn't cry if Nancy Pelosi got hit by a car and died. That's free. That's fine. But I would, if I were to go online and say, everyone,
hit
get
Nancy
in your car
Pelosi.
and run her down when you see her.
It's a directive.
That's a call to action, and that's not
Sure,
protected.
sure.
So
Now, what about shouting, "You will not replace us" in a chant?
no problem with that. You have the freedom to say that.
Okay. What if you are all in?
This is where they're going to
torches?
get me. They're going to get me.
No. I mean, so ultimately,
gonna
that was like one of the
I'm
trends.
prepping for a.
So a lot of people have come back with Charlottesville as like the Unite the Right rally was a neo-Nazi white nationalist sort of rallying cry to say like we are all here for it. One of the chants that they used was like, "You will not replace us."
Question. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't want to lose this thought because it's important. It ties into what Jake was talking about earlier. The left's movement, in this case, Charlottesville, getting statues are art. Do we want to remove them because of the actions of what they did? They were slave owners. They fought this. They had this belief.
Okay.
Should you tear down what that art meant in terms of that statue? Are we willing to just look at the art for the art and remember the history that it stands for?
So
Because we all just agreed before in the first segment that the art should stand and the art should survive.
So that all bases itself upon what is art, and because I mean, many on the right would say that you shouldn't get participation trophies. You shouldn't get, like, oh, you tried, here you go.
Does Hitler get a participation trophy for his, his paintings or whatever?
Yeah. So when we have statues venerating Robert E. Lee, do I think there should have been a statue to begin with? No, because
do you think
these are people who quite literally committed sedition?
Do you
they
think
are traitors to the?
Do you think it's
at it too?
So then? Therefore, do you think there should be a statue? It's wrong to have a statue of Adolf Hitler. He lost the war, but his actions are. I'm just in general. I'm just saying hypothetically.
In Germany,
in Germany, it'd be illegal. I'm just talking like in general. Like, is it important for us to remember who he was and what he did to know not to replicate it? And is his statue something symbolic that we should have?
I'm not
maybe a statue of Marx. His ideas have failed.
Yeah. And context, I think, matters because when we have
the statue didn't say here's Robert E. Lee, he was a rad dude.
It came out and said
a rad dude. Come on,
I believe it was actually cool, bruh.
Cool, bruh. But it said like leader of this army through this year to this year, and it wasn't.
The statue could have stayed if it said one word at the end: traitor.
Would you disagree?
Here's
a good question.
I don't think it doesn't need to have the word traitor.
Hold on, it's actually really important.
He rebelled against the Union.
Do you
Hitler wouldn't have to have the word monster at the end. We all know based on
sedition does not make someone monstrous. The entire act of the American Revolution was an act of sedition.
Agreed.
They were traitors, and I can guarantee you.
Would you agree?
There would not be
that
George Washington, all of the founding fathers were traitors.
Oh, absolutely.
Me too.
Okay.
There's no argument there. Historically,
Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, they were traitors.
Sure, but all under the Lincoln Memorial, or not Lincoln Memorial, the Washington, alcohol sipping in, saying wrong presidents, decades
the giant penis envy.
We're proud of that traitor. That's the thing. Is we're proud of that act of traitor.
Yeah, the difference is he won. That is the difference.
But in that traitor flourished liberty.
Sure.
Ideally, we can go nitpick,
but freedom is not unique to the U.S.
I mean, if we're being honest, though,
liberty is not unique to the U.S. either. So, in truth, the reason why we make the difference is that Washington won. If the Union had successfully succeeded from the Union.
So we have context here. If you want, we have some more chat. It says,
"Ask away." He
says, you have to account for when and why many of these statues were put in place. The ones in the South, at least, mass-produced and erected during the Jim Crow era. So that's something we're kind of skipping out on. I think that is actually a good thing to talk about. But they weren't put up the day after the Civil War,
or even a few years after.
They were put up in reaction to a very specific movement and counter movement in our culture about restricting now freed slaves from having full freedom.
So I was in.
I guess I just don't have an issue with putting up statues of key figures in our history, regardless if they were on the side of right or wrong.
Would you be okay? So
because it's important to know the history and also appreciate the art that is put into that.
There's like no art in statues.
Not those statues.
Hold on.
There's one statue. I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Okay.
Oh boy, here we go.
Is this the Holocaust?
No.
Memorial one, which is actually beautiful.
Is it the guy like swinging babies? That one? Have you seen that one? He has one in his hand. He's kicking another one.
Is it the Baphomet statue from the Church of Satan?
I'm focusing on Civil War statues.
Oh, okay.
Jeez. But so when we look at it, do I think that we should not, I don't want to use. I think it is actually whitewash history, or just sort of like make it. I do not want us to censor or remove. The mention of or the historical significance of the fact that the Civil War occurred. I think we have a problem when in the South you have like city and county board of educations saying it wasn't a civil war, it was the war of northern aggression. I think when you start rewriting
how abundant is that? Is there an isolated case in one town where that happened? Where now,
I think it was actually referred to that for many districts in the South, and then the Supreme Court got involved and said, "Nah, that wasn't how this happened. This wasn't Northerners coming in telling you that the way that you have your life in the South is wrong." What they said was, it's illegal to own people. and you need to
Now,
pay taxes.
What is your take on this? Now we're going to get into a little bit of history here. This was about the debates.
So
The Civil War.
So before we move on, I just want you guys.
You asked what was the Civil War about?
No.
So
Well,
have you seen this
no.
statue here?
Yes, but
I'm
no.
gonna turn it real quick.
All right, return me. Whoa, the camera moved.
Yeah,
Hello, now it's just on me, and now Travis.
So
That's
out
me
of
out
this.
of
just do a peek around here real quick so you can see what I'm
Yeah,
talking
so
about. The topic.
we'll get up.
Is the
for
camera
stuff.
fine?
Okay.
I better be in it.
Camera's good. You're,
Yeah,
in
I
it.
don't know.
You're being blocked out by Confederate, but yeah, now you're good. So this is the statue I'm talking about right here.
Congrats, Stars.
All right,
and
I'm gonna
Bars.
get up. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Pardon me. I'm gonna see the statue here.
So this is the statue. You know the statue here?
That's a terrible statue.
It's a horrible statue.
It's
Around
so,
like 1998.
is that on the screen? Can they see that?
Yeah, they can see it right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This statue right here.
Okay.
Is that art?
So
It's
in
venerating Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest.
so there is a museum of bad art, I believe, in Portland, Oregon.
He was known as Colonel Derp.
I mean, it's definitely not great statue. There's no question. I think we all agree, right? That is a bad statue.
Yeah.
Not because of its quality, not because of its moral.
The dude's got like a cult, just like
Not because of its
yeehawing
not
his-
because of its moral quality, because it's fucking just a bad statue.
But that brings it into a question of like the crux of the question is what is art? Because if the position that these Confederate statues are art, we would need to define, so is art something that is of any medium that influences a populace? Yeah, these statues are art. Are these designed to be consumed to make you feel a certain way? Yes. Then I would say these statues are not art.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think Jake and I didn't see who was the one, Andrew,
Ashley has a question for you too, by the way.
From me specifically? Oh boy, here we go.
about these statues being put up as a response to segregation in the South and Jim Crow. It's like, okay, are these here truly to venerate, you know, the whatever the contributions, or to serve as, or whatever the contributions of Confederate generals and captains would be? Or is this designed to influence a response in a local population of, this is who we put in statues? Like, when was the first statue for Martin Luther? I mean, if someone could please look it up.
Yeah.
When was the first statue for Martin Luther King put up?
So the question for you, by the way.
Okay,
It's
so
kinda
I please will you bring milk home?
She says, would Tanner appreciate a statue praising Mother Teresa?
Damn it, Ashley.
She should be on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Well, the problem is I can't. That's not fair because I can never win a debate argument with her. She will win every time. She's infinitely smarter than me.
Oh, +5 Tanner points.
Yeah, +5, 10 points. Would I? Okay. Okay. Here's. I would be fine with. I would be fine with the Mother Teresa statue. At the end of the day, and if it had, you know, its little plaque with all its praises, maybe it shouldn't say like terrible person. You said traitor.
Traitor?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that there
But I would be fine with its construction. I'd be fine with people looking at it and fine with people appreciating it. I think that in the internet age, there's enough access to be able to show the terrible things that she actually did. That you can either self-educate or you could talk to people, maybe like the three of us who are pretty anti-organized religion, who could point out to them like, hey, you know what? She wasn't so much of a rad dude, you know.
She's more of a bad dude than a rad dude.
More of a bad dude than a rad dude, and here's why. So
That's
I think
really
there's enough
awesome.
way
Bad
to
dude.
learn about, like, we all know like Robert E. Lee lost the war. Like, you don't need to put. We all know he tried to secede. I don't know if you need to put it, but we can still.
Was it states' rights or was it racism though?
I mean, before we even get into why the Civil War was fought,
My question to that was there was experts academics who were arguing that it was a war on actually industry and how we were like
industrialization, moving away from the agrarian lifestyle.
Right, you know, for some like even railroad tracks, we were laying 10 miles for every one, I think it was, that they did. So it's like, you know, did that actually was what won the war and not the moral
That was
argument.
the war.
I mean, I don't think morality has as much of an sort of drive for why the North won.
I feel like that's why it's taught. I feel like it's the way it's presented.
Up here,
Yeah.
most
Winners,
likely.
the winners write this.
The winners
history.
do write history. Because I can tell you right now,
It's
World
playing-
War II, people in America are like, oh yeah, we fought it too. We were outraged by...
We were the Antifa.
Yeah, we were Antifa then. But, you know, we were terrified of Holocaust, all these things. People oftentimes forget America in the 30s and beginning part of the 40s were funding both the Axis and the Allied powers.
What about our Japanese, encampments? What about?
Yeah, Japanese internment was another thing. I
What
mean,
about-
that said, we didn't mass exterminate people.
No, but we did hate the Jews still then too.
Yeah, anti-Semitism has
They
been around
were
a
yeah
lot,
that
too.
was at the high point. Like when people were like, "Were you worried about the Japanese?" No, I'm worried about the Jews and the banks. It was weird. Like back, yeah.
We didn't want to save the Jews though. That's not why we went to war.
Yeah.
We wanted to stop. We wanted to stop them getting here. Is what we wanted.
we,
and Pearl
we
Harbor,
felt
for
so Pearl Harbor was one of the early pieces, which I don't think it was Hirohito, but it was a Japanese. All we have done is pulled the tail of a sleeping tiger.
Yeah. Would the Nazis have won had they not attacked Pearl Harbor? Maybe.
Full stop? Yeah, likely.
We were
They,
non-interventionalists.
they were bombing.
We were
London.
non-interventionalists. We were like, fuck them.
So there was a very isolationist piece on it. Now,
Ew, gross. Is that the actual date?
there you go.
Martin Luther King Jr.
did.
The first Martin Luther King Jr. memorial was made in 2011, August of 22. It's the fourth monument in D.C. to honor a non-president, and it was 2011. Wow.
It's pretty late.
If I was a betting man, you'd have my money.
Andrew says that we also had Nazi rallies in the U.S. at Madison Square Garden, which that is true.
I mean, the National Socialist.
Do we?
Yeah, if you watch,
like
if you watch fucking Boardwalk Empire, it's in that or whatever. Yeah.
Do we all agree they have the right to assemble and a right to protest?
Sure. But
Yeah,
Okay,
everyone,
sure,
people
yeah.
have a right to assemble to convey any views that they want, and
not the right
they
to hate
had.
speech though, or like,
Of course,
So,
you have the
yeah.
right to hate speech. 100%.
You do no.
Not
So
call to action. No.
Not call to action.
No, but hate
But you-
speech itself has also been like there's actual terms that are not protected under
Sure.
the First Amendment.
Sure.
So like there is a piece that what is dubbed quote unquote hate speech is not really covered under the First Amendment for it. Call to actions commonly aren't either, depending on what is there. So
I guess I would stand on the fact that hate speech is free speech.
I don't
That's
agree with
my
so-
argument, my
so
stance.
There is,
And I'm sure we'll have a whole show about this. But
Actually, maybe I'll
Can
do
we-
that
we
one
should-
of
can we
what
actually-
universal free
Let's
speech
actually
is.
save that because I think
No.
that's a good point. It
No.
could take a whole 2 hours. So let's
Yeah.
move on from
No.
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Because if I can't say something even that you might hate and is disgusting, am I really free?
But
Is my
that's-
speech
but-
really free?
I don't think
So
that's our
there's-
definition of hate speech.
to
necessarily.
quote Jeff Daniels' character in the beginning of the
Dumb and
Newsroom?
Dumber?
No, it's the most annoying sound in the no, I think it's the Newsroom.
Oh yeah, that's a good interview or a good monologue.
He's serving as like the middle man between a straw man of a conservative and a straw man of a liberal, and they get asked, "Oh, what makes America so great?"
Oh,
the
he's on
conservatives just
on the
like-
panel, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the clips on Facebook. The
basically-
students ask or something
He
like that.
basically
students
just America's not great. It's
Yeah, he rants
Yeah.
off about like here's why we actually are trash, and yeah,
And
that's a good clip.
the piece on freedom, I always kind of sticks with me. And he's like, you can't say that America's great because we're free to do things. Like 140 fucking countries in the world, probably more. That's pulling this number out of my ass.
That
And
have freedom, but
An overwhelming majority of them have freedom. The real question is, what is it that we define as freedom? Are you free to do anything?
I would say we're one of the few countries that actually have free speech, where there are many countries where you don't. In terms of even though they're free countries, Germany, England, you're getting arrested for memes. And Australia, you're getting arrested for Facebook posts you make on Facebook. There's a disgusting video of these cops arresting this woman in Australia. So there are many countries. There's a stand-up comedian in Canada who had to go in front of a human rights tribunal for making jokes. That's not free speech.
The
And
debates, by the way.
the debate. So, but I'm just saying, like, okay, a whole new episode.
Yeah.
A couple weeks, we'll do a big
Do it on
free speech.
It'll be the three wine contest. Because few things are better than discussing.
So I have a question. I do have a question
friendship
about debate, and then
friendship
maybe we can
is.
wrap it up, or we're getting toward the end. I don't know. You have the
So
time.
we're over, but it's okay.
Okay.
I'm good with us going between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
Okay, so
So we're over an hour.
Trump made a
Thanks,
very.
viewers.
Thank you for sticking with us, by the way. Trump made a case that he feels mail-in will be there will be voter fraud with mail-in ballots. I was reading the article he was quoting where they found ballots with his name on it in a dumpster and in a river creek. So like, is this a real? I'm not saying I agree with him that this is true, but is this
I mean, statistically, it's
is this a
not
real
So
concern? Should people be concerned about it?
TLDR, no.
You're a big,
You shouldn't be concerned.
You're a big number person.
I am a big number
So
person.
am I.
So I looked at roughly in the past.
Let me try this other wine.
It
we're doing,
honestly
by the way.
is not as garbage as I thought
It's
it would
way
be.
better than the
So,
last
It,
couple
it is
ones.
During the
infinitely
break,
better.
that's right, by the way, this is Crane Lake now because we drank all the bread and butter.
I'm calling it the at least it has a cork.
He goes, "Oh, this is pretty bad. Here, you should try some." Like, you just told me it's bad. I'm just kind of a little bit excited. I'm driving. Gotta be responsible.
So
And,
it's
with
a-
Ashley
it's a-
watching, she knows it doesn't take much to get me.
It is a little sweet, which is why I think you'd like it.
It's less acidic than the last one. That's my big
Yeah.
one.
I feel like it doesn't have any flavor.
It's a little bland.
Yep.
All right, let's guess the price.
I didn't
of
think
this
any. I didn't. Think,
This has to be
$4.99.
this. Who did you buy it?
one. I bought it.
It has to be $6.99.
You both lose. It's $3.99.
Holy shit! It tastes like
Okay.
$3.99.
Thank you, Elm
It's-
Street, for this okay wine for $3.99. Like,
Okay,
price-
for $4,
price point?
fine.
Yeah. So when we talked about bread and butter is a wine that you bring when you're like, this is an inoffensive wine that people will still talk to me afterwards. You show up with this to a dinner party.
You can't
It's
talk
the
anymore.
last dinner party you get invited to.
I don't know. This is still better than that last one we had. That last one was.
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah.
Did you throw that bottle away?
Oh, it got burned.
What was it called again?
Longevity.
Longevity. That was-
Longevity was
that
bad.
was the
This is
worst
better
one.
than longevity,
This is
but
this
it's
is
still
better
not
than-
good.
So this is top of the seconds.
Top of the bad tier.
Yeah.
But so
Mail-in forms ballots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the instances of voter fraud documented for I think like one of the larger sort of mail-in instances. I think it was Florida maybe. There were like anywhere between 4 and like 30. There were 2 million votes cast on it. It's largely inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
Now that said, the Gore-Bush presidency was decided on 40,000 votes, and that was
And
after
massive recounts.
Hanging
that was-
chads.
and that was after the Supreme Court told them to stop counting. My concern with this election
This is the Supreme Court.
is when this gets contested to the Supreme Court, because unless there is a full blowout in every
Like, it's
swing state,
indisputable.
it's going to be contested. If not by Trump, then by Biden. So I
Even
think
though on the debate stage he said, whatever the outcome is, I will accept it.
he will accept it, but he did not commit to election night, because full stop, there are mail-in states that are allowing mail-in votes a week after the election.
I forgot.
Dated-
Last week, were you
dated.
talking...
Dated
Dated
before,
Dated before, sure.
but
Right.
counted up to a week.
Last week, were you pro-court packing?
I am. I mean, that was my
Okay.
quick last jab.
I'm
At the end of the sign off, I did say I'm pro court packing because I do not think that the Supreme Court is a nonpartisan entity.
Okay.
sure.
Because
So long
because
as there can always be ties.
Biden was not
Biden
quick
is
to...
against it.
He was not... Well, he didn't condemn it.
He did not, and I'm not surprised he didn't.
But he did not come out.
He didn't come out.
Because Trump
supportive.
requested him multiple times. You're going to report back to courts, you're going to pack the courts, you're going to pack the courts, and he just wasn't answering it. It's like...
But is
Because
I just want a
it
straight
is-
answer.
It is
That's not so
politi- it
bad.
is- I have
It's
no
not
problem
either-
saying
From
it.
either of them. From either of
It's
them. I want
not
a
this-
straight
it's
answer.
not
They never
this-
get it.
It is a politically toxic position to take.
But it's
And I
not this
fully-
also packing the courts though right now.
It hits
No,
the
but it's-
ear.
it's-
It hits
it's
the ear
occupying-
wrong. It hits the ear wrong to the private citizen, to the normal
yeah.
citizens. Like, ew, no.
But
like,
quite
it's
literally,
not- it's not-
is what Trump doing?
It's not the same Senate Majority Leader holding off the appointment of a person in one point.
Thurmond rule.
Yeah, when it's in their favor, and then switching sides on that same opinion when it's in. when it's,
So Ted Cruz actually
that
wrote
is
an op-ed
also a
piece.
packing of the courts, is what I would say.
Talk
But,
about
but it is
McConnell, right?
occupying within. No, it wasn't Cotton. It was Ted Cruz wrote one.
Oh, but talk
a
about the
couple
person
days
who's who's switching back and forth. Mitch McConnell's the one that's like was
So Mitch
was,
McConnell is the
was
one who was like anti-Merrick Garland,
Garland.
anti-Merrick
line.
Garland, pro Amy Barrett.
Sure.
Or Coney
I
Barrett?
think statutes are statutes. If you make
Whatever.
Barrett.
But that is the thing. There is no statute, and that
Sure.
was if you're really interested in
The
our
same
positions on
fucking-
court
it's
packing
the same fucking
and
majority
in the
leader.
judiciary, is that watch last week's episode predominantly about it. Long story short, though, Ted Cruz wrote a position, an opinion piece, kind of explaining why he was rabidly against Merrick Garland's position and why he is voting in support of Amy Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
And he effectively says the quiet part out loud. It's, we have a unified Senate and White House, which,
Fuck
fun
you.
fact, was my position last week.
But basically,
was-
fuck you is the answer.
Excuse me as I'm pulling up the questions for.
Yeah.
To a degree, that was his stance of, we have a unified Senate
And we
and
have
we have the White House. And his position was
So all-
in 2016.
all of his conjecture about having like some sort of precedent
the
or
voters'
moral
position
shit
on it
was just fucking bullshit. Is what I'm trying to say.
So
It was just
there's a
bullshit.
reason why Ted Cruz was on that short list of Supreme Court justices. I don't like Ted Cruz at all. He and his dad were the fucking Zodiac killers.
I'm
There
indifferent.
is no dad. It's the
There
same
is no
person.
dad. It is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is an immortal.
I'm indifferent on him. There's definitely, if I were to make a list of
Anyways, moving on.
people,
Yeah, to continue with this piece. Regardless of my feelings about Ted Cruz, he's a very good attorney. Like, he understands the legal system. He's good at what he does. I disagree with how he interprets things, but I'm not an attorney. Nothing I've said constitutes legal opinion. But Ted Cruz ultimately comes out and says, like, yeah, we have a unified position because in 2014, during the midterm election, there was a large red swelling. So his position was the voters chose in the midterms to flip the Senate, and their political will was to go and have a more conservative leaning, which is why he is stating, you know what? We have a conservative Senate. We have a conservative White House. We should continue to push conservative ideology through, including the Supreme Court. Now, that said, I disagree with him because following that same position, the House flipped.
right?
So if you were really taking a position
Although
of
Senate
what is the
didn't
will
flip.
of the people,
Senate didn't flip; it just swelled. Right?
I actually don't know offhand if
In
we had more.
2016?
Yeah, if we had more conservative, if there was a greater conservative majority. I didn't think it changed.
I don't think it changed either. So there's not really. It's
I think we just won seats.
I don't think conservatives did that. Like, you can check to see the results of it.
Yeah, I'm not really
I
sure.
think it was
It's not
a
really
moderate one.
important now. Yeah.
But with that in mind, the Senate is not the will of the people. It is the will of districting.
It's a representative.
It is a representative democracy.
Will of the big corporations
Not
that
even.
lobbied for their vote.
It's as
I wish it was as like
Black and white.
black and white as
The
that,
Senate
but
is
it's
as
not.
Republic as we get, and the Congress is, or sorry,
The House
is
is
as
Democratic
democratic as we get, pretty much on a national level.
And that is the case. I don't think we have a flaw. I do think we have a flawed system. However, it is the perfect imperfect tool.
Okay.
And that's arguably my position with capitalism as well. Capitalism is flawed and imperfect.
Best thing we got.
Best we got.
So one final question before we go into the
Their questions.
the lightning questions. Did you quick basic yes or no's? Do you think you took away anything in terms of learning what their policies were on any issue on that debate stage? Did they
No.
convey in any way, shape, or to the populace even
Nope.
what their policy was
The
on
only-
X or Y
So no,
or Z?
all I would say is the only thing that was conveyed was that
We're fucked.
that
Everyone should support ranked choice.
By the way, I just want to point out to the audience, 40 something minutes, 50 something minutes into the debate, Jo Jorgensen, Libertarian candidate, her website crashed because of traffic.
It was probably not from Democrats.
It's from traffic, maybe not, but it might have been a split.
but-
But to traffic of people looking like, what is the third option? Her site crashed.
I will say the Green Party right now is weak and a terrible fourth option.
So was the real winner of that debate third parties?
No,
I don't know who the winner was, but I can tell you the losers were the American people.
Agreed.
third party will never actually win until we reevaluate our voting system. That's just how it is.
And you always talk about ranked voting.
Rank choice. Yeah.
Ranked choice voting, yeah. Which Maine is partaking in. So
Maine
we'll
is,
see how
yep.
we'll see how it goes. And there
More
you
of
go.
that, please.
More of that.
Maine has an independent senator,
They're a purple state.
so
Yeah, although she sucks. So.
no, Susan Collins is a conservative. I'm talking about Angus King.
Oh, Angus King, yeah. Susan Collins.
Alrighty, so lightning round then. All right, lightning round questions. I got 5 of them. They're all should be pretty quick. First one, AJ, are you open to ever having guests or experts on the show?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah,
Sure.
like you even joked about having Ashley on the show. Like,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
she knows what she's talking about.
I mean, she's an expert in knowing more than us.
Probably.
there
I
you
like
go.
the idea of having people on who might bring a separate, because like obviously Travis and I have similar opinions. We all three probably have similar opinions about a lot of things. I want to hear someone talk about something that we all could learn from too.
Mhm.
Absolutely, you know.
Completely foreign to us, maybe.
Sure.
Okay, there you go. I think it's the
Yep.
quickest one we ever did. This one was actually asked to me last night from Ashley. I hope she's still watching this because this is a question from
Based
her.
on the viewers, I think she is.
Okay, this is a question from her
All 2 of them.
to me that I thought would be good to ask you guys. So this is kind of a question from me. What was that? All right, so if there was 0 adverse effect on the ecosystem, okay, what is one animal or species or whatever you would have just vanish, just fuck off?
Mosquitoes.
Scales?
Absolutely.
Scales. So that was kind of close to my
That's
answer.
such a good answer.
Rats are number 2.
My answer was wasp, yellow jacket, hornet. The things that just sting you just to fucking sting you. Like,
Sure.
Yep.
That have no.
Yeah, like
Again, if
if bats
nothing-
ate something else and just didn't eat those, yep, fucking just
It's almost
wipe 'em
it's
out.
almost accurate to say that if you remove all like hornets from the ecosystem, that they actually wouldn't have much of an effect too. So it's almost like
They do function as pollinators, but
yeah,
like,
but like
we got a lot of pollinators and
there's
on
better-
staff.
there's-
We can call,
we need more.
there's better
actually.
there's better pollinators. Like we should be investing in fucking bees, dude. Bees all day.
So
yeah,
another thing that stings
Ashley says she wants to like.
No,
She told me
fucking
last night bombshell.
honey bees don't really
Yeah.
sting you. They
Bombshell.
do.
you, they don't. Yeah.
She like it's like this is a person that like we're planning a life together and we're looking maybe to buy a house yet and she randomly
Maybe
drops
don't say that in a mocking tone.
and like but no like this was
Oh,
this was the
So I
impression.
have a comment from Whiskey Vixen. She says, "I want a divorce."
Yeah. Well, hold on. And she drops this bombshell on me. Oh, by the way, I want bees. I want to have beekeeping in the backyard. And I'm like,
Do it.
Ashley, keep bees. I'll make mead from your bees. Please, keep
mead?
bees.
Oh, mead.
I
Making
will
that
ferment
honey,
your
that
honey.
honey ale.
Give me some
So-
fucking
so
honey.
Jake does
I
make
am
mead.
good. I am a good mead maker.
So-
Meadery man. Give me your honey.
Jake does make mead.
That's
In
good.
addition to all of our proclivity for alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
of course, if it can ferment,
Sure.
probably would have made it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and on top of it, if you care about your local ecosystem, yeah, keeping bees is a great way to go contribute.
She was telling me her dad did. I was just like, I never knew this. I had no idea she had desire to keep bees.
It's also like not super difficult.
I don't know.
just
I
kinda
just
let
think
them
of, what's
be.
that? Was it My Girl?
They-
Is that the movie? I just
so
all this comes into my head.
Connecticut-
Like I'm
I
just
know
gonna be
a lot
I'm
of-
gonna be Macaulay Culkin and
I actually know a lot about
Culkin.
apiaries right now.
yeah, it's Macaulay
because
Culkin,
of
isn't
my-
it? He's the
My
kid that
Girl?
he's the kid that dies.
I know a lot. I know a lot about.
God.
And she puts the glasses on. No, he's okay. I swear. Like,
Listen though. I know a lot of apiaries right now because.
did you just blow your mind?
No, I knew that. I don't remember that being called My Girl.
Is it My Girl? That was My Girl.
Here, listen. I know a lot. About, right now, listen. I know a lot about apiaries because of my fucking mead shit. And the thing about bees in Connecticut specifically is that winter is a problem. About half
Winter
your
is coming.
about half your bees are going to die if you do it right every winter. So the point is to create to invest and flourish your population in a way that you exceed the
Yeah,
amount you're going
fuck
to
me.
lose
Yeah, it is.
every year. And I don't know what the point is, but make sure you plant near your bees some sort of like really good pollinator, like alfalfa. Alfalfa is really good for feeding bees, and also it's like a pretty carbon neutral plant to plant, and it makes really good honey. What am I fucking talking about? I was just saying it makes it. Ashley,
you gotta ask the question.
you
but
specifically,
Jake won't
Ashley,
say it.
please get some fucking bees. Make those bees.
Yes, we're getting bees.
Fucking please. I will give you free mead from the honey. Just fucking give me some fucking honey to make it out of.
On top of
Okay.
it, also, it is in fact My Girl. I did have to look it up. Macaulay Culkin is allergic to bees and gets killed.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd is the dad.
I didn't know Dan Aykroyd. I forgot Dan Aykroyd was that. All right, third
He
question.
Thanks,
She
Wikipedia.
says, all caps, told you it is my girl.
Nice. Third question, Brendan. If I wanted to rep your show, Would you guys ever make merch like stickers, pins, or shirts?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I've done it before.
Or we,
I kind of come
like give it away promotionally or out of pocket, or we sell it?
both.
Both initially. I mean, sorry. Now I'm stumbling on my words. Probably we would give it away as free swag.
I think we would throw it.
And
So I would say, here's what I would do. So if I come from a media background, so I kind of know how this goes. What I would say is we have like a T-shirt or a mug or a sticker, whatever. We have a giveaway every week. We take questions. The question, either like the best question, or we can pick a random person from the questions who just gets. So we want to reward participation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm really getting down to like the algorithm style shit that you would do with this sort of thing.
Easiest way that I would say to kind
Reward-
of continue that is either a
Then you
wine glass
also-
or a
Oh, wine,
Bottle-
wine
a
glasses
bottle-
with cab lights
Sure.
would be cool.
either that, or we will send you a bottle of the wine that
sure.
we're reviewing for.
And then on top of that, right?
What's it back to?
All of a sudden,
that-
it's like the $100 bottle. It's like, oh shit.
So that's only for the weeks where we don't have that. But on top of that, though, you would have a shop where people like you want to engage people to a point where they feel like, oh, it's cool. I got on the ground floor. I got like a fucking left right cab T-shirt.
Those hipsters.
Exactly. So
I was
like
there.
said,
I was there at the
I've-
pilot episode,
I've kind of been through this.
but they didn't have a
before.
video. It was all audio, bro.
I didn't know what they looked like. Gotta
So,
say,
like, all I'm saying
Travis,
is, like,
he disappoints.
It's like we wouldn't really be doing it for money. It'd be doing it for recognition.
Promotion.
Yeah.
The point is to broaden your scope. Like we're all sunken money wise into this at this point in time, and we'll continue to be for the foreseeable future. That's not the point of this.
Yeah, we're not getting our money back on the money we spend on our
The wine,
$15
the
bottles of wine.
equipment,
Oh my.
the time.
Yeah.
That's really for us. We're doing this for our own fun right now.
And to provide a service to you guys if you guys actually are enjoying the content.
Sure. And if at any point it becomes something that like is revenue generating, that's
Icing on the cake.
sort of exactly. It's sort of removed from the experience for us. I'm enjoying. You're enjoying this. You're enjoying this.
I am surprisingly enjoying this bottle of Crane Lake.
I had my fill of Crane Lake.
Not the wine. The whole experience of doing this together.
Absolutely. I look forward to I will look forward to Thursdays
It
every
really
Thursday.
fills my time and it gives me something to look forward to. And I like you guys, even though you and I, Tanner, like aren't exactly aligned in every way. I think you're a great person to talk to, and I really enjoy.
Hey, I'm all right.
I really enjoy this. It's like it makes me. What they say, like we're like we sharpen each other's opinions, right? Where we,
I hope so. I hope that's
We're-
that's the
we're
end
forced-
result. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we're
that
forced
was
to-
the Hitchens, and
Yeah.
there was a prominent Christian scientist who gave his eulogy,
yeah.
and they were like, we disagreed all the time, but it was the banter, the verbal sparring that really kind of kept them sharp
Isn't
and
it
actually into
also the Socratic method to self-examine your own
Own
viewpoints
positions.
and
Yep.
define them and
What's the-
maybe find holes in them yourself? Because
so
I'm
that you
sure I'm
can
going to
then
find.
strengthen
Isn't
the
there a
argument
quote that's
itself.
like stone against stone? Man sharpens another man. There's a whole thing. That's a quote from something I can't remember.
No.
I'll look it up.
Find us that
But-
quote and then put it in the chat, and you may get some swag when we make swag. From Ariana, this is actually a coworker of mine, my job. NSYNC or Backstreet?
Insane.
So I liked Backstreet's songs more
But
until
JT,
they released Pop.
Like Dirty Pop? That's NSYNC.
Insane.
That's NSYNC.
Yeah. So it was
So you said you like Backstreet songs?
originally.
Okay.
And then Pop
you,
came out,
and you're like,
and I was like, holy shit. And then I
Oh,
just
it's a proverb. Sorry, go back just for a second. It's iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens the face his neighbor.
those were some deep NSYNC lyrics.
yeet.
Dirty Pop.
But yeah, I think it's because I don't remember if it's Tiesto or Oakenfold. There's actually like a really prominent DJ on Pop, and like at the time I was like Vampire Freaks Edgelord kid.
Is it Paul Oakenfold? Is that his
Oh,
name?
yeah.
I think it's Paul Oakenfold.
Paul Oakenfold.
It's what-
It
so-
might- it
so
might be.
our old
A friend of ours.
we had like a little friend group studio thing when we made like stupid YouTube videos when we were kids, and it was POLAPS, Prolapse, Paul Oakenfold Lazy Ass Production Studios. Shout out Steve, miss you.
I would say I liked them both pretty equally. I think I probably owned a Backstreet Boys album. I think at one point
For
I
me,
did.
it's just like
So-
I mean, I probably own Millennium, but like.
So I don't really know. I mean, I do know the songs, obviously, the pop, the major ones. But it's like for me, JT he's certainly the standout of all of them.
Well, he's the only one that got a career afterwards, and no one got a
But
career.
like the 2020 experience is the best
Outside of
any of that
Lance
shit.
Bass dabbles in
Oh, fuck Lance
briefly,
Bass.
but like,
D+ celebrity.
Fuck Lance Bass.
so
You never come on this podcast, Lance Bass.
I-
JT can come on anytime.
Hey, Joey Fatone was on The
enter
Masked Singer.
Enter the
Okay,
fat
Joey,
one.
Joey Fat One.
He's also a regular voice on Robot Chicken.
He
On a
is.
lot of-
So Enter the Fat One is a Karate Kid parody on Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Right.
But so I do want to correct a point that I had. It wasn't Paul Oakenfold. It was Brian Transo, who goes under the DJ name
BT.
BT.
My legit favorite of all those artists. BT.
BT.
So
So
love him.
BT
Well, if
is
he's,
the
techno-
producer and like
That's
guy
why-
behind Pop.
Oh, that's why that song is so good.
Yeah.
I
Which I think
have
is probably
multiple BT albums. This is
this
one thing
Binary Universe is one of my favorite albums
It's
of
really
all
good.
time.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's all done through ambient music, and he's like recording and looping.
I will
things.
show
It's
movement in still life. Is that?
I will say we're past the 2 hour mark.
Oh god. Okay. Last question. Then I'm
If you have
sorry.
any questions, everyone please listen to BT.
BT is I think it's like a guilty pleasure. No one knows about me that I'm a huge BT fan. I love
Fair
BT.
enough.
3 people, really quick. Each part, 3 people. Your top 3 influences. Your biggest influences. I guess it could
what?
be your just how it shaped you. I guess it could be like, oh, my dad's an influence, but maybe they mean not family. They didn't. It wasn't really specific. Now that I'm looking at the question,
Ideology, artistic, maybe.
anything. Yeah, 3 biggest influences who made you you. I guess I'll go first. Penn Jillette, definitely Christopher Hitchens, and more recently, I really enjoy Jordan Peterson. So I know you guys will have differences, but I like Jordan Peterson.
I was okay with the first 2.
Yeah, I mean, Hitch and all 4 members of
The Apocalypse.
The Apocalypse.
So it's Sam Harris, Dawkins, and Bennett.
Yes.
Bennett. Okay, I'll make sure I get the 4th one right.
George Bennett? Yeah, anyways.
Are you counting them as one unit?
No, because
Okay.
even throughout them, it would probably be Hitchens, Harris, Dawkins, and then Bennett. But I won't actually say that for any
Movement
of
in
them.
Still Life. I got it right. BT. Movement in Still Life. Sorry.
Albert Camus,
You have to tell me who that is.
French existentialist, wrote The Stranger. He also wrote The Plague, The Fall, The Rebel. Prominent thought leader for French existentialism
Okay.
throughout throughout World War II.
Okay.
Number,
That's your second guy?
No, that would be my
The first
first.
guy, okay.
The Four Horsemen. I would like to say that and be like edgy and intelligent, but like no, I'll go Camus.
Well, I guess Hitch is mine. Of the 4, I really... Something about when Hitch talks, it draws you in.
My number 2 would be Stephen Fry.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck you. I was going to say Stephen Fry. I'm still going to say Stephen Fry. Bitch.
Number 3, and this is going to be kind of weird. Malcolm Gladwell,
Okay.
pop psychologist. He's written prominently known for The Tipping Point,
We're doing
but he also did
We're doing
Blink,
3, right?
Oh, I've seen this guy.
Goliath, or David and Goliath.
Yeah, I've seen this guy.
But Blink was a prominent piece. So my 3 are Stephen Fry, Albert Camus, and Malcolm
So we're
Gladwell.
only doing 3? Shit.
Only 3.
So I'd probably do Kant. Immanuel
Kant.
Immanuel Kant and his influence on utilitarianism, essentially, as an ideology. That's kind of my main philosophy, I think.
Look at none of us saying Nietzsche, unless you're about to say Nietzsche.
No. I'm
Okay.
only doing one,
Fucking
I'm
Ed.
doing one philosopher, okay?
Okay.
So edgy.
I would probably say Kanye West, one of the greatest philosophers of our time.
Easy.
Is that a meme response, or
it's
you
a
just
serious-
Is that your Shia LaBeouf? Is that where this is going?
Shia LaBeouf wishes he was Kanye West. That's all I can say.
All right, Kanye West is up there.
Um,
Even new Kanye West, where he's all pro-Trump.
I'm not talking about political. but
Okay.
Sure.
So art from the artist.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Okay.
And then, I gotta throw a director in there because I'm a film dickhead. Terry Gilliam.
What do you direct?
Yeah, but
Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
He was originally Monty Python. He was the animator for Monty Python. He directed tons of movies that he made Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is probably the most famous one.
There you go. I'm looking
12
at it.
Monkeys.
it's that weird
Richard
like time
Munchausen.
trap. 12 Monkeys is that like
The
super
man who
weird
killed
time
Don
travel.
Quixote.
Well, he finally made that. He tried to make that for years. That's a whole other story. Time Bandits,
I've seen that.
The Fisher King. I mean, I know his work. It's
Lost
Brazil.
in La Mancha.
My
Yeah,
favorite
okay,
film.
I've seen this.
Lost
The
in La
Brothers
Mancha is a
Grimm.
documentary.
He did the Brothers.
That's his one bad movie.
Jupiter Ascending.
It's better than
No, Brothers
Sure
Grimm I will
about
watch
that?
over Jupiter Ascending.
Anyways, my favorite film of all time is Brazil, or I guess my knee jerk is. That's probably not really true, but
Also, as a sort of
Brazil is
an
a
extra
favorite
on this,
film.
favorite film of all time.
He's a surrealist, basically.
My favorite film of all time?
Yep.
Cube.
Cuties.
Cuties on seen on Netflix. Oh, get it now. Cube. Canadian film about
Don't know.
like 6-7 people get trapped in a cube, and some of the rooms kill you. It's a cube, and inside are littler cubes, and they're all in there. They don't remember how they get in there, but they all kind of have some trait or ability that will help them get out if they can work together. Some of the rooms are trapped and kill you. There's also Cube 2 and Cube 0. Cube 2, hot trash. Cube 0, kind of cool because it's the first time you kind of see outside the cube and you don't know what's going on, but you kind of get a feel for it. But I love Cube, hands down. Favorite movie. It's a B movie. Yeah.
What's your answer?
Big Fish.
Ooh,
Oh.
You're going for a fucking what's his face? Tim Burton film, huh?
Honestly, there's nothing to do with Tim Burton for it. I enjoy the concept that a man or a person's life can always be both greiter and lesser at the same time.
And we'll end off with your...
So like I said earlier, Brazil is my I went to school for this. Like I have 1,000 films I could say, but
It's an argument of from authority.
it is. But we're not arguing though. I'm talking,
I know. I'm just busting.
if we were having a debate, it was different. But I would say, from a subjective perspective, I have at least 20 films I could throw out right now. But Brazil is my knee jerk. It's Terry Gilliam. He is known as like one of the most prominent surrealist and dream-oriented directors of our time, and he really inspired me as a kid. And that film is like 1984, taken through the surrealist dreamer's perspective, and it's
All right. Well, we have 3 good
really
films
good
to
film. Brazil
recommend
is
to our
really
viewers
fun.
to watch in this next week for our next episode.
My number 2 is also Starship Troopers. So
Oh,
I have
I
no taste in film.
hold on. Starship Troopers is an amazing film. I spent a whole semester on Paul Verhoeven. Let me talk about Paul Verhoeven. We're going to end the night right now.
Movie uses the most amount of live ammunition up until that point in a single film.
Starship Troopers is an
So,
incredible
like,
film.
Wonderful
It
satire.
is
Nothing like
real satire.
Yeah.
Satire that got played in blockbuster cinema here. That's a really hard thing to do in America. Paul Verhoeven's the one director in our modern history who's done it right. Showgirls, go watch Showgirls.
We'll sign off with the only good bug is a dead bug.
That's good, guys. Thank you for hanging out and listening to us rant and talk about a bunch of crazy things and drink a lot of wine. Bread and Butter, check them out. They're good. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Am I missing
Twitch.
one? Twitch. You're watching this on Twitch. Watch on Twitch. Left, Right, Cab on all of it. You'll be able to find us. We'll look into getting swag and do promotion stuff down the road. We'll look into that.
I
So
just want to say this is officially our longest episode.
our longest episode. Sorry. Yes. Normally we're trying to cut it back, but sometimes the conversations just get so good and we just can't stop. So please tune in to our episode next week. Thank you guys for watching. Have a
I would say radical piece fielded out